during the course of Tuesday. Ahead of it, though, under the clear skies, turning quite chilly in the countryside, but I think most towns and cities staying in double figures. So for most of us on Tuesday, it does start off bright with lots of sunshine, but this band of showery rain across the southwest will gradually spread into parts of Wales and Northern Ireland too. So quite a disappointing day to come here with the rain potentially on the heavy side in places. Ahead of it, largely dry, could just see the odd shower around, but in the sunshine, not feeling too bad out there, with again in the southeast highs reaching 21 or 22 degrees.
Today, clouds overhead. Total zen within. Box Solar sponsors the weather on GB News.
Crash Law 24 sponsors GB News Traffic and Travel Report.
Good morning. This is the latest AI travel news from GBnews.com. A traffic incident on the A720 westbound between Gilmerton and Lasswade is causing delays. On the A38 eastbound in Devon, one lane is closed due to a collision, with delays expected to clear by 10 o'clock. The M4 eastbound between Junction 3 and Junction 2 has hold-ups, expected to ease by 10. The M20 westbound in Kent is closed between Junction 3 and Junction 1 due to a vehicle fire, with 50-minute delays until midday. And on the trains, Avanti West Coast services are disrupted between Tamworth and Nuneaton, with Chiltern Railways facing issues to and from London Marylebone. For more travel news, go to gbnews.com.
Crash Law 24 sponsors GB News Traffic and Travel Report.
Good afternoon, Britain. Weekdays from midday.
Now, the National Memorial to Queen Elizabeth II will include a new bridge in St James's Park, designed by Norman Foster.
Yes, the translucent bridge will be inspired by the tiara the Queen wore on her wedding day.
But let's get more now from St James's Park with our royal correspondent, Cameron Walker. Cameron, what's the memorial going to be like?
Good afternoon, Tom and Emily. Yes, the wait is finally over. We have the final design from the renowned architect Lord Foster, who famously once criticised the King for his views on architecture. But of course, today it's all about honouring Queen Elizabeth II and her legacy. On that theme, at Marlborough Gate, which is the big gate you see behind me, which overlooks the Mall, that's going to be renamed Queen Elizabeth II Place. And there is, according to the artist impression, going to be a big statue of Queen Elizabeth II riding a horse overlooking the Mall. Of course, incredibly poignant because she had a deep love of all things equine. Incredibly poignant, of course, as well, significant love between Prince Philip and the late Queen. It's going to apparently, according to the architect, or hinted by the architect, light up at night as well, which is meant to symbolise all the diamonds that were part of that tiara. And the Queen famously also gave it to her granddaughter, loaned it to her granddaughter, Princess Beatrice, for her wedding in 2020. And then we come to the final part of St James's Park's Queen Elizabeth II's memorial, and that is going to be right here at the other end of the park, overlooking Birdcage Walk, going to be renamed Prince Philip Gates, because a new statue of Queen Elizabeth II and Prince Philip is going to be erected at the other side of St James's Park. It's meant to be them, according to the artist's impressions, in their younger years.
GB News, the People's Channel.
Good morning, 9:30 on Monday, the 8th of September, live across the UK, Britain's Newsroom with Andrew Pearce and Miriam Cates.
Well, it's a new week, but will the same problems continue for Sir Keir Starmer and the Labour Party?
And if Labour didn't have enough problems, more than 1,000 small boat migrants arrived on Shabana Mahmood's first full day as Home Secretary. Today she's holding talks with ministers from the United States, Canada, Australia and New Zealand as they battle to get a grip of the migrant crisis. What about France?
Well, lots of turmoil in France as well, and we'll get the reaction to the incredible comments from a High Court judge who wished one of the masterminds behind the 7/7 bombings all the best, while Nigel Farage has said he should be sacked.
More and more British women are not having children in a trend that is driving down the birth rate to record lows. An international expert will join us in the studio to say why we should all be worried.
And Prince Harry is back in the UK. Of course, he's not seen his father for more than 18 months. So will they finally be reunited this week?
And no sign of it.
So Harry is back in the UK, but
Your
as you just
favourite
said,
subject. But no sign of his wife.
no, absolutely, just on his own.
And there was a fascinating piece in the Sunday Times yesterday all about how Harry would like to come back to Britain eventually with his children. It did not once mention what his wife wanted. Because you can't do both. He's here for most of the week. He's here. Today's the 3rd anniversary of the death of the Queen. He's going to go to Windsor Castle to see where her final resting place. Very moving, very nice, because of course he was once close to His Majesty the Queen. But will he see his father?
Big
question.
So. It must be really hard, especially for his children. They don't know their grandparents, their aunts.
Well, that's his fault, isn't it? Harry doesn't bring them here.
Yeah, but it's hard for them. Anyway, we'd love to know what you think about that and all the other topics we're discussing today. gbnews.com/your say.
But first, here's your 60-second news update with Tatiana Sanchez.
Good morning. The top stories at 9:30. Labour's ruling body will meet today to draw up plans for a deputy leadership election as MPs consider whether to enter the race to replace Angela Rayner. The newly appointed Home Secretary, Shabana Mahmood, says migrants will be returned to France imminently. That's as she prepares to host a security alliance alongside ministers from countries like America and Canada to discuss the rise of people smuggling gangs. Commuters across the capital are facing severe disruption as a tube strike has shut down almost all London Underground services. Tube staff have begun a 5-day strike over paying conditions. An Australian mother who murdered her estranged husband's parents and aunt by feeding them a beef Wellington laced with poisonous mushrooms has been jailed for life with a minimum of 33 years. And Rick Davies, the co-founder and vocalist of Supertramp, has died at the age of 81. Those are the headlines for now. More in half an hour.
Tune into GB News Radio wherever you are. Online, on DAB digital radio, on TuneIn, on Radio Player and on your smart speaker. Just say, play GB News.
Hello, welcome back. This is Britain's Newsroom. We're live across the United Kingdom on GB News with Andrew Pearce and Miriam Cates.
Well, there is, if you're trying to come into London today, great difficulties because there is a tube strike. It's our old friends from the RMT who've caused strikes before. They're striking because they want a 32-hour week. Don't we all? Nice. Plus they want, 75% travel concession. Yeah. So already Coldplay, so imagine people have spent months and months looking forward to the Coldplay concert. 82,000 people due to go to that concert in Wembley Stadium tonight, cancelled. A band called Post Malone, I confess I've never heard of them, but I'm not, have cancelled their concert at Tottenham Hotspur's ground tonight. So all over London, this is going to cause huge damage to the economy. It's going to cause particular damage to the hospitality industry, which we know since Labour's budget last year, there's been, 90,000 jobs lost. Yeah. What's this going to do?
Well, it's going to cause huge problems all week. Think of all the events that are going to be cancelled. It's not just massive gigs, but ordinary business events. Yeah. I mean, the Elizabeth line is still running, so I managed to get in. But if you're reliant on any of the other tube lines, it's really going to be challenging. And somebody told me it was £100 for a taxi and a route that normally costs a fraction of that today.
Yeah, because the taxis are stuck in traffic, the meters whirring round, same if it's Uber. And so no end. And I thought when Labour got in, Miriam, that was an end to the strikes. We've had junior doctor strikes, so they're not called that anymore. And this wretched government, remember one of the first things they did, they gave a huge pay rise to the train drivers with no strings attached. Went on strike.
Well, there are questions, I think, about whether public sector workers should be allowed to strike. Because at the end of the day, it is the taxpayer that pays their wage. It's slightly more indirect than that with Transport for London. But essentially, it's public money for a public wage.
Well, it's an essential service because how did doctors and nurses and care workers and people working in our hospitals get to work? Yeah. And it's critical. Now, look, they've worked during COVID. You have to take our hat off to them then. But this is really, really bad. And it sends out a terrible signal. People flying in on their holidays from abroad, coming to London.
Know. Well, one of our guests coming on later doesn't normally live in the UK. He's coming into the studio especially to speak to us. I think he's going to make it, but it's not a great advert for living in the UK. Anyway,
and not a word from the Prime Minister, because remember these trade unions. The RMT is not one particular, but it's the trade unions that bankroll Labour and keep them in power.
Absolutely. Well, there is no end in sight to that misery for Sir Keir Starmer, because now the powerful trade unions are training their sights on him.
The country's most senior trade unionist, Paul Novak, he's the General Secretary of the TUCs, will tell the TUC conference today in Brighton that Labour must show working-class communities whose side they're on.
Well, let's speak to our political correspondent, Olivia Utley, who is there at the conference. Olivia, I imagine it's yet to start, but what's the mood like at the conference? How impressed or otherwise are they with this Labour government?
Well, it very much feels like the unions are beginning to flex their muscles at Keir Starmer. Paul Novak, the General Secretary of the TUC, I asked him yesterday whether he thought that Keir Starmer was the best man to be Labour leader, and this is what he had to say.
Well, Keir Starmer's our Prime Minister, and obviously different unions are going to take different views on those issues. The key thing for us, and it's similar to the point about the reshuffle, I'm not really interested in playing cabinet top trumps or who should be in a position or who shouldn't be in a position. What I'm really interested in is a government that delivers on the policies that matter to working people. So the Employment Rights Bill, first and foremost, deliver it in full, but also a government that's going to take the big decisions at the next budget around making sure those with the broadest shoulders pay their fair share of tax, invest in our public services, and an industrial strategy worthy of the name. So we know that the government has been going through a difficult period. The key thing is now they get on with that phase 2 and deliver the change that people voted for last July. That's the most important thing.
Well, Paul Novak actually historically has had a closer relationship with Keir Starmer than many of the union leaders under him. But even he wouldn't go as far as to say that, yes, Keir Starmer is the best man to lead the Labour Party at the moment. What the unions are really, really worried about is that that employment rights bill, that workers' rights bill, which was championed by Angela Rayner, is going to be watered down now that not just Angela Rayner, but also Justin Madden, who was a champion of this in the Department for Employment, the Minister for Employment, he was sacked too in the reshuffle last week. And without either of those champions pushing this bill through Parliament, the worry for unions is that this is going to be watered down. Now, I spoke to Dave Ward as well yesterday, who was the General Secretary of the CWU, and he says that if it is watered down, he made it very clear that he wouldn't fully support the Labour government anymore. And of course, all of this is against the backdrop of Jeremy Corbyn setting up his new Your Party. Most of these union leaders and most of the unions supported Jeremy Corbyn wholeheartedly when he was Labour leader. So the worry for Keir Starmer is that their backing and their money too could go from the Labour Party to the new Your Party. Now, you might think that the easiest option for the government would be just to kowtow to the unions and get through this workers' rights bill in full. But on the other side, the Prime Minister and the government is facing pressure too. Businesses are deeply worried about the impact of this workers' rights bill. It is estimated that it would cost businesses an extra £5 billion a year in red tape, making it far more difficult for them to get rid of employees who are performing badly. So on the one side, you have the unions, the might of the unions, flexing their muscles at the Prime Minister and the government, trying to force them to get through this workers' rights bill in full. And on the other side, you have UK trade bodies, you have UK businesses, those people who Keir Starmer is so desperate to get back on side after the pretty catastrophic fallout from the national insurance hike at the last budget. And those people are saying, no, we need this employment rights bill to be watered down. That bill is coming back to the House of Commons this week, the House of Parliament this week, and it'll be fascinating to see how Labour MPs respond to it without Angela Rayner or Justin Madden there in the government to push them on.
And Olivia, just to remind people watching and listening, some of the measures in this bill include the right to maternity leave and sick pay from day one of your employment.
Well, absolutely. So there was a woman who works in a supermarket who stood up yesterday at Paul Novak's conference, and she said that she needs the right to immediate sick pay from day one. Obviously, this would be really, really, really difficult for businesses. And of course, the other measure in there is that workers would have a right to request permanent contracts, sort of unflexible contracts with a fixed amount of hours from their first day in the job. Now, the worry from businesses' perspective is that what could end end up happening is that, unable to give fixed contracts to every single worker in their business, you could end up in a situation where actually far more people are in unstable employment. They could be on a small number of hours contracts. So there could be huge ramifications for employment. And of course, we all are already in a situation where the number of people not looking for work or in school is pretty much at an all-time high. In places like Manchester and Birmingham, 1 in 5 working people, people of working age, are not working. And if this workers' rights bill goes through in full, businesses warn that that will just go up. It'll get harder and harder for them to employ people. So there is real pressure on both sides for Keir Starmer. And Angela Rayner, who was the bridge between the left and the right of the party, has gone. Who will replace her as deputy? That is the big question. Number 10 look like they want Shabana Mahmood, the Home Secretary. That would really anger the left of the party. So Keir Starmer could be battling on another front in the next few weeks.
Now, Olivia, the trade unions, as you said, used to wield enormous power, and they still are major donors to the Labour Party. But membership of trade unions has crashed in recent years. I think it was about 1/3 of all employees in the 1990s. It's a very small minority now. Will the Labour Party, or the Labour government, I should say, be taking this Congress seriously, or is it a bit of a sideshow now?
Well, it's interesting, actually. Very few Labour MPs do seem to be here today. I've got a producer nodding in the background. He's been desperately trying to get Labour MPs to come on the show, but actually very few of them are here. So I think there is a possibility that the government said there are certainly MPs on the left of the...
I think the link has gone down. What I was going to ask is the Prime Minister going to speak there? Because he didn't last year, if my memory serves me. Angela Rayner did. Do you remember at last year's Labour conference, Angela Rayner was speaking at an event. So I walked into the event, I was a little early, and they said, "What are you doing here?"
Really?
And I said, "I'm waiting for Angela Rayner." So it's a private event. I said, "It isn't. This is the TUC conference. Here's the handbook.
You're a journalist.
Here it is, Angela Rayner to address." "Well, you can't stay." I said, "Is this because I'm GB News and Daily Mail, or because it's Andrew Pish?" Bit of all three, really. So,
at least she was honest, Andrew.
Yeah, so they kicked me out, and it was fantastic. I got a full page about how welcome and open the brotherhood are and sisterhood to the press, because they only want you in there if they think you're going to write and say what they want.
So much for transparency.
Yeah, I was delighted.
I think
Please invite me to a conference again, and then throw me out. It's a gift.
I think one of the most worrying things about the Employment Rights Bill is the fact that you will be allowed to demand a permanent contract on the back of an irregular contract. So say you normally do a different amount of hours each week, because you might be a young person
0
working
hours.
shifts.
You like those contracts?
Yeah, but you can demand a fixed contract. I mean, employers just aren't going to employ people. We're already seeing that.
They won't.
It's
well, and we've seen that unemployment is creeping up.
Yeah, that's right. Despite there being lots and lots of working-age people not working at all. Well, still ahead, we'll be joined by an expert who will tell us why British women are having fewer children than ever.
But up next, we're going to get reaction to the frankly disgraceful, appalling comments from a very senior judge who wished one of the masterminds behind the 7/7 bombings all the very best. Nigel Bryce says he should be sacked. He's absolutely right about that. But first, if you're in search of a holiday sun, here's the forecast.
Ready to soak up that holiday sunshine?
Won't we need some cover?
No worries. All sorted.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations Forecast.
Hello there. An unsettled couple of days to come across parts of Spain and Italy with some heavy showers around. But for the Canaries, actually, next couple of days, largely fine, apart from the odd shower around. Plenty of sunshine, actually, for parts of Portugal and western Spain. But for eastern Spain, the Balearics, parts of Italy, southern France, some heavy and thundery downpours around. But for much of Greece and Turkey, fine couple of days to come, with temperatures here reaching the high 20s.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations Forecast.
At GB News, we love to hear from you, our loyal community. So drop us a line at gbnews.com/yoursay. There you can talk to each other and also to the presenters live on air. gbnews.com/yoursay, because GB News is your channel, Britain's news channel.
Good afternoon, Britain. Weekdays from midday.
There's estimated to be 1.5 million people in Britain on these jabs. So therefore, if everybody in the UK turns out to be skinny, what is that going to do for those who decide they don't want to take this jab?
Well, I think people start looking for somebody else to blame or for somebody else to attack. People have always attacked me for being a big man and for being fat. But now I'm losing weight and I've gone the other way around. I've lost 7.5 stone. It seems to be people are now attacking me for taking the easy way out. I mean, there truly is no winning. I mean, we should be appreciating that we've got a drug that seems to be dealing with a serious issue and helping a lot of people to improve their lives. And ultimately, it's going to reduce the cost on the NHS of what it's going to cost, you know, so we should be looking at the positives here rather than the negatives, because a lot of people seem to be attacking people for taking the drug. Ozempic and Mounjaro have been a lifesaver for a lot of people, so I'm in full support of anybody that needs it to take it and, you know, lose some weight and better their life. Why not?
But I think what this academic is suggesting is that some people who choose not to take these drugs, and of course lots of people don't want to be pumping chemicals into their body for whatever reason, even if there are no sort of terrible side effects, people who choose not to take the drug will have more of a sort of stigma. They'll be judged more and they'll feel pressure to take a drug just because of the social norms, if you like.
I can get where you're coming from. I mean, look, nobody should be judged in the first instance. It shouldn't be an issue to start with. You know, to try and get people to stop judging people in general is something that's going to be, you know, unachievable. But ultimately, nobody should be, you know, attacked or told off for trying to lose weight the natural way. If anything, fair play to them. You know, they're trying to do it themselves without the need and assist of something like Mounjaro or Ozempic.
GB News, the People's Channel.
Join me, Nana Akwe, for an informative, interactive news programme with a difference. It's fun.
No, he didn't say that, Dave.
I'm so surprised.
I think there's an element of truth to that.
Join me from 3 p.m. every weekend, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
In the GB Newsroom, we bring you the news as it happens.
With our team of dedicated journalists across the UK.
We're ready to keep you up to date with what's happening every half an hour, every single day. Bulletins here on GB News.
The People's Channel.
Britain's news channel.
Well, it's nearly 10 to 10. You're watching Britain's Newsroom on GB News. Now, Nigel Farage has called for a leading High Court judge to resign after he wished one of the masterminds behind the 7/7 bombings all the best.
Haroon Aswat will be released from a psychiatric hospital shortly. Why is the first question, by the way. He was jailed in the US in 2015 before being extradited to the UK.
Well, Sir Robert J., the judge, said it could not have been too pleasant being in American custody all that time. I have to wish you all the best and to say that to you that the best way forward is to keep on your medication, listen to the advice you're going to get, and keep out of the sort of things you were doing. Sounds like what you'd say to a 16-year-old who's been caught shoplifting, doesn't it? That kind of seriousness of a...
Completely sure. Let's talk to the human rights lawyer, David Hay. David, good morning. I was screaming when I read this. Wishing you all the best. Can't have been very pleasant being in custody, in jail in America. Can't be very pleasant, can it, for the families of the 52 people who were killed in the 7/7 atrocity. Then there were the many more who suffered life-changing injuries. There was an accountant at the Daily Mail where I worked, lost his leg on the London bus. 52 dead. Appalling. Is this man fit to be a judge?
Good morning to you both. I mean, Andrew, I felt the same way as you when I saw this story. I think, you know, a bad judge and a very, very bad choice of words. And I would answer your question simply, and I would say, you know, if these are the type of comments that he is putting out, no, he isn't. But the problem, this is one of the problems we have with the judiciary. It's practically impossible to fire a judge. Very, 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 very difficult to raise a complaint against a judge, which is another thing. First of all, you only have a short period of time to do it in, and there's a very few instances in which you could raise a complaint. And these words, Andrew, wouldn't pass that test. So if someone complained about him, if Nigel Farage did put a complaint about him in, it wouldn't be upheld on the rules that there are at the moment, and that's why those rules are not fit for purpose. And last week I was arguing that we need even slightly different here, but we need a register of interest for judges as well. So we need to have a check on their behaviour, which there really isn't, but we also need to see when they have other interests which they need to declare.
But there's another point to this story as well, which I find shocking, David. Now, this monster, in my view, was one of the masterminds of the terror attack. He is being released on psychiatric grounds. Because he's been released on psychiatric grounds, we are not entitled to put a tag on him, so the authorities will not know where this man who coordinated one of the worst ever terror attacks in British soil, we won't know where he is. How can that be right either?
Well, it isn't, and it's absolutely disgraceful, and it's even more disgraceful because it's obviously the anniversary this year. You know, I think it's disgusting all round, and you know, the judge with these comments to add to that, that's not a comment for a judge in those circumstances to make, and he should know better.
Now, David, one of the other comments that the judge made was that he hoped that Aswat would put it all behind him. Now, he's spent nearly 20 years in custody, both here and in the US. But as recently as 2022, I understand, he was still making threats, and the analysis done of him by psychiatrists and the police say that he admits that he is a terrorist. Why is he being released at all?
Quite.
Absolutely. I mean, I can't answer that. That's the thing. In my view, he should not be being released. You know, the state is letting us down here. This person, I don't believe on the facts that we have available to us, is a safe person. I think it's very concerning, but this is the sentence that this person was given, and the people in power have decided, the people with the decision making have decided that he is safe to be released. We will obviously see whether or not that's the case.
And could potentially the government, perhaps the Home Secretary or the new Justice Secretary, are they legally allowed to intervene in a case such like this and ask for him to be recalled to prison?
Well, I think it depends on precisely the basis he's been released. So if technically the Home Secretary has a lot of authority, but I think it would be very difficult in this case. I'm not 100% certain as to the technical reasons why he's been allowed out, and that's what it would depend on. And if those decisions have been made. But in theory, potentially, but I think it might be a little bit too late now.
Yeah, if there's some transgression by a foreign power, the Foreign Secretary will call in the ambassador to give them a dressing down. That we've seen that often, particularly with Russia. Why isn't this judge hauled in either by the Justice Secretary, the Lord Chancellor, who we now know is the towering political titan David Lammy, or the Home Secretary, to be rebuked? Why doesn't it happen why are judges treated differently in their stupid wigs?
Yeah, Andrew, I agree with you 100%. It absolutely should be that case. It should be the case where, you know, you should even be able to have a complaint system against them that's effective. But there isn't. They're in there effectively for life. They can do what they want, say what they want, and effectively get away with it. You know, and we've seen that many times. You know, we have some very good judges, but in this country, we're very fortunate. But equally, we have some very bad ones. And when we do have bad ones, there's absolutely nothing we can really do about it. And it is something that must be changed.
Well, David Hay, lawyer, thank you very much for your analysis this morning.
We often disagree with David Hay,
Yeah,
because he's a human rights lawyer.
And you don't believe in human rights?
I do, but I think the human rights, the human rights lawyers have done very well out of the situation.
And what a shocking lack of accountability for
appalling.
Judges that can't be removed.
It's appalling.
Even if they commit... anyway, don't go anywhere, because we've got a former Labour minister coming to give their views on the problems facing Keir Starmer. You're watching Britain's Newsroom on GB News.
Expect warm spells with the odd rude interruption. Box Boiler sponsors the weather on GB News.
Good morning, welcome to your latest GB News weather forecast. Well, it's going to be a day of sunshine and showers for most of us. And compared to the weekend, it will be feeling a little bit fresher out there. So we do start the day with lots of sunshine around, especially out towards the east. In the west, we're starting to already see some showers develop, and as the day goes on, they'll gradually become a little bit more widespread across the UK. Always most frequent out towards the west, and some of these showers could be potentially on the heavy and thundery side. As I mentioned, compared to the weekend, temperatures will be down a few degrees, but still reaching around 21 or 22 degrees in the southeast. So I think if you're in the sunshine, it won't feel too bad out there. So looking into the evening in a little bit more detail across southern parts of the UK, any showers in the east generally beginning to fade away, but they will continue for a little while yet across the West Country, parts of Wales, northwest England too. Also, a similar story for Northern Ireland and Scotland. Western parts of Northern Ireland and Scotland continuing to see some showers. Again, some of these showers could be on the heavy side, but the further east you are, better chance of staying dry with some late spells of sunshine. And really, as we move throughout the course of the night, very little changes. Still the risk of some showers across the west. Greatest chance of the clearest skies out towards the east. And then subtle differences down towards the southwest later on in the night. We start to see the winds pick up ahead of this next showery feature, which will be arriving during the course of Tuesday. Ahead of it, though, under the clear skies, turning quite chilly in the countryside, but I think most towns and cities staying in double figures. So for most of us on Tuesday, it does start off bright with lots of sunshine, but this band of showery rain across the southwest will gradually spread into parts of Wales and Northern Ireland too. So quite a disappointing day to come here with the rain potentially on the heavy side in places. Ahead of it, largely dry, could just see the odd shower around, but in the sunshine, not feeling too bad out there with, again, in the southeast, highs reaching 21 or 22 degrees.
Expect warm spells with the odd rude interruption. Box Boilers sponsors the weather on GB News.
Crash Law 24 sponsors GB News Traffic and Travel Report.
Good morning. This is the latest AI travel news from gbnews.com. Heavy congestion has been reported on the M4 eastbound between Junction 3 and Junction 2, causing delays in the Greater London area. In Kent, all lanes are currently closed on the M20 westbound between Junction 3 and Junction 1 due to a severe vehicle fire. This incident is causing extensive delays of around 50 minutes. On the trains, there is major disruption with Chiltern Railways services to and from London Marylebone, and Avanti West Coast is experiencing significant delays between Tamworth and Nuneaton. Stay up to date at gbnews.com for more travel news, or for more travel news go to gbnews.com.
Crash Law 24 sponsors GB News Traffic and Travel Report.
This is your chance to win a motorhome and cash in our biggest giveaway to date. Courtesy of Marquis Leisure, you could be the proud owner of this 2025 Benamar Primero. It comfortably accommodates 4 people and can be driven on your standard driving licence. Plus, you'll also bank an incredible £30,000 in tax-free cash to spend on anything you like. Make sure you don't miss out. For another chance to win, text WIN to 63225. One entry costs £2.50 plus one standard network rate message, or text BONUS to 63225. 5 entries cost £5 plus one standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start at £2.50. Call 0903 686 3232. Calls cost £2.50 plus your network access charge. Or post your name and number to GB16 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 4 p.m. on the 31st of October. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand. Good luck.
From the school run to the home run, watch a new show for all of Britain.
So he can say whatever he wants.
A straight talking show where all voices are heard.
And, you know, when are we going to stop talking about smashing the gangs and actually do it?
With the stories that matter from every part of our country.
There's a bit of a crash landing there for your Chancellor.
Bold, fearless and standing up for you. That's me, Martin Daubney, 3 p.m. till 6 p.m, weekdays, here only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Westminster's full of talk, but out here, it's the real world.
Am I allowed to talk then?
No, that's it. This is where it matters, real people and real lives. That's what politics is all about.
In fact, has Trump made a good start? No.
Straight answers, no spin, and just a couple of pints. How many fingers have I got up?
About 10.
So join me for Lee Anderson's Real World every Friday at 7 p.m, only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Good morning, it's 10 o'clock on Monday the 8th of September. We're live across the United Kingdom. This is Britain's Newsroom with Andrew Pearce and Miriam Kate.
A new week, but same old turmoil for Sir Keir Starmer and his Labour government.
So Keir Starmer starts work this week. The Cabinet meets tomorrow, but later today we find out who might start to be nominated to be his deputy leader. It may be someone he doesn't want there. More trouble ahead.
Well, the difficult headlines for Labour continue as more than 1,000 small boat migrants arrived on Shabana Mahmood's first full day as Home Secretary. She'll hold talks today with ministers from the US, Canada, Australia and New Zealand as they battle to get a grip of the migrant crisis.
British women are having fewer children than ever. An expert's going to join us in the studio to tell us why we should all be very worried about this.
And Prince Harry is back in the UK. He's not seen his father for more than 18 months. Will they finally be reunited again this week? So, Andrew, I'm really looking forward to our guest this hour, Stephen Shaw. He's an international demographics expert. That means he studies the birth rates.
Because you're very vexed about this, aren't you?
Yes, I think it's a huge economic problem. And we tend to think of it as a kind of, oh, well, if people don't want to have children, what's the problem? But the thing is, most people do want to have children, but an extraordinary number, 35% of women potentially, now aren't becoming mothers.
It's because of their careers or they don't want to bring people into this terrible world, or money?
I think it's a combination of lots of things. Obviously, people stay in education for a lot longer. That delays things. A lot of people not finding the right partner. But Stephen's really dug into this, and it's not that people are having fewer children, as in family sizes are shrinking. They're not. It's just the number of women who don't have children at all, and men. So that'll be very interesting. Looking forward to that.
All right, well, let us know what you think. Send your views, post your comments by visiting
gbnews.com/your say. But first, here's the news with Tatiana Sanchez.
Thank you very much. The top stories this morning. Labour's ruling body will meet today to draw up plans for a deputy leadership election as MPs consider whether to enter the race to replace Angela Rayner. The National Executive Committee will hold talks aimed at deciding on a timeline and rules for the contest, including how many nominations from MPs will be needed for candidates to make a ballot. Home Secretary Shabana Mahmood, who's been tasked with tightening the government's grip on immigration, has not yet made a decision on whether to run, it's understood. Well, it's as the newly appointed Home Secretary says migrants will be returned to France imminently. That's as she prepares to host a security alliance alongside ministers from countries like America and Canada to discuss the rise of people smuggling gangs. It comes after 1,000 migrants crossed the Channel on the Home Secretary's first full day in office, bringing the total this year to over 30,000. Shadow Business Secretary Andrew Griffith spoke to GB News.
Well, look, words are cheap, and this has been going on for a very long period of time now under this government. They said they had a plan. They clearly don't have a plan. They could adopt our deportation bill, which would address some of this. They should never have cancelled the Rwanda deterrent, which would have had the effect, as many other countries are now pursuing, of being able to remove people to third countries if they can't be sent back from where they came. Nobody should be coming here from France. France is a safe country. We don't always agree with their menu choices, but they have human rights. And if people are fleeing persecution, then they should be staying in France. They don't need to take that dangerous criminal endeavour across the Channel.
Elsewhere, commuters across the capital are facing severe disruption as the tube strike has shut down almost all London Underground services. Tube staff have begun a 5-day strike over paying conditions. TfL has offered a 3.4% pay rise, which it described as fair, and said it cannot afford to meet the RMT's demand for a cut in the working week. Nick Dent, London Underground's Director of Customer Operations, said union demands for a cut in the 35-hour week was simply unaffordable and would cost hundreds of millions of pounds. Tube drivers can already earn up to £72,849 a year for a 35-hour week, with benefits including 43 days holiday and extensive travel perks. TUC General Secretary Paul Novak has spoken this morning.
Obviously, decisions about the relationship between Unite and Labour are down to Sharon and her members. What I would say this is, even the Prime Minister himself last week said that he understood that people were frustrated and angry that change hadn't been delivered as fast as people wanted. And that's what the government was elected 14 months ago to do. That manifesto had one word on the front of it: change. And I think for far too many people that still feels like a slogan rather than part of their everyday lives. So today in my Congress speech I'll be asking the government to show whose side they're on, to to be on the side of working class communities up and down the country and to deliver the change that people voted for. Whether that's improved workers' rights, whether that's better public services, show people you're serious about change.
In other news, an Australian mother who murdered her estranged husband's parents and aunt by feeding them beef Wellington laced with poisonous mushrooms has been jailed for life with a minimum of 33 years. 50-year-old Erin Patterson lured her former parents-in-law Don and Gail Patterson, both 70, and Gail Patterson's sister Heather Wilkinson to lunch at her home in Victoria on the 29th of July 2023. Mrs Wilkinson's husband, Reverend Ian Wilkinson, also ate the meal but survived after receiving a liver transplant and spending months in hospital. Patterson, a mother of two, had made the pastry dish with deadly death cap mushrooms. The judge said her lack of remorse meant her sentence should be lengthy. A father who's been hiding in the New Zealand wilderness with his 3 children is believed to have been shot dead after a confrontation with police. Thomas Phillips vanished with his 2 daughters and son in 2021 and has evaded authorities ever since. One of the children was found with Phillips, and a manhunt for the 2 children who are still missing is underway. At least 5 people have been killed in a shooting in Jerusalem. Around 15 people were injured, with 6 in a serious condition, after it appeared 2 attackers boarded a bus and opened fire as it reached a major intersection at the northern entrance to Jerusalem on a road that leads to Jewish settlements in East Jerusalem. Police said 2 attackers were neutralised soon after. A spokesperson for Israeli Emergency Services MDA said among the 5 victims were a man about 50 years old and 3 men aged around 30. Stargazers across the globe got the chance to see a total lunar eclipse called a blood moon on Sunday night and early this morning. The moon turned a deep, dark red as the Earth passed directly between the sun and the moon, casting its shadow across the lunar surface. It was the first time since 2022 that a total lunar eclipse was visible in the UK. Where skies were clear, the eclipse was visible at roughly 7:30 p.m. on a Sunday. And finally, Rick Davies, the co-founder and vocalist of Supertramp, has died at the age of 81. He died at his Long Island home. It comes after a long battle with multiple myeloma, which was first diagnosed in 2015. Formed in 1969 with Roger Hodgson, Supertramp's 1979 album Breakfast in America sold over 30 million copies. Davies is survived by his wife Sue, the band's manager since 1984. And those are the latest headlines for now. More from me in half an hour.
Hello, welcome back to Britain's Newsroom. We're live across the United Kingdom on GB News with Andrew Pearce and Miriam Cates.
No end in sight to the misery for Sir Keir Starmer, actually, for all of us, frankly, because now the powerful trade unions are training their sights on him.
Yes, after the leader of the Unite union warned that they may withdraw support for the party, the country's most senior trade unionist, Paul Nowak, will tell the TUC conference today that Labour must show working-class communities whose side they're on.
And the migrant crisis gets worse and worse. Remember when Labour said they were going to smash the gangs? More than 1,000 asylum seekers crossed the Channel on Saturday, which happened to be the first day in the job of the new Home Secretary, Shabana Mahmood. Welcome to the new job.
Yeah, not a great inbox for her. And we are now on course, aren't we, for record?
We certainly are, yeah.
Well, let's speak to GB News' political editor, Chris Hope. Good morning, Chris. A difficult start to the week for Shabana Mahmood.
Yes, every day is tricky if you're the Home Secretary. Today she meets with other allies, America, Canada, Australia, New Zealand, so-called Five Eyes, to try and find out common ground in tackling the small boats crisis. 1,000 arriving, as you said there, on Saturday, almost a friendly wake-up call, a welcome to the, I say friendly, ironically, to the job from those criminal gangs who send these people across in dinghies. But big issues there. I think we look, though, at the new team in the Home Office. I think they have got new fresh eyes there. Shabana Mahmood is in there. That is, I think she is a tough cookie. She's fought very hard for her brief when she was Justice Secretary. She limited the scope of courts over the issue of jailing white people, and so that was inappropriate to bring in the issue of race in those circumstances. She dealt with the very difficult issue, I think, of releasing prisoners as best she could, given that's bequeathed to her by the Tory party. I looked down the list this, though. We have now lost, of course, Dame Angela Eagle, Dame Diana Johnson from that department, along with Yvette Cooper. They've brought in someone called Mike Tapp, who's well known to GB News viewers and listeners, who, of course, is the MP for Dover and Deal. I'm sure he'll soon be called the MP for GB News. He'll be on so much talking about the issue you're seeing on screen there on those small boats. Elsewhere, I'm looking closely at the issue of workers' rights. These are the rights trumpeted by Angela Rayner, of course, when she was the lead Deputy Prime Minister and, of course, the Housing Secretary. The idea there being to give people immediate rights to paternity, maternity pay, sick pay and the like, fiercely fought by companies. Now, if you look at who's gone, Angela Rayner has gone. Justin Madders, her deputy, he has gone. He was championing that legislation going through Parliament, as well as Jonathan Reynolds from Business. I wonder whether that might be weakened, and I wonder whether that might go down very badly at the Trade Union Congress if that emerges. And just finally, on the issue of benefits, I look at the benefits team. That is interesting, I think. This government has got to get a grip on the 6 million people paid not to work by our government on benefits. That is unsustainable going forward. The government knows that. They can't even cut £5 billion off the bill, which is going towards £100 billion by the end of the decade earlier this year. That's why they brought in Pat McFadden, the old bruiser, the old warhorse, who knows his way around Whitehall. So that's my take on the reshuffle. The first time we'll see them all together, Andrew and Miriam, is tomorrow in the Cabinet Room.
All right, Chris, thank you for that. That's Chris Hope, who is our political editor. We're delighted to say we're now joined by the former Labour Cabinet Minister, Geoff Hoon, who held a number of jobs under Tony Blair and Gordon Brown. I think we've got Geoff Hoon. Geoff, morning to you.
Good morning. How are you?
I'm all right, thank you. I think I'm in a bit better place than some of your ex-Labour colleagues, because last week the Prime Minister told us this was phase 2 of the Starmer government. Well, he's lost a Deputy Prime Minister. He's done a reshuffle he wasn't expecting to do. He's got rid of a Home Secretary he said was doing a marvellous job. He's moved a Foreign Secretary who he said was going to be there for 5 years. It's chaos, Geoff Hoon.
Well, it's not been a great week, and no one could pretend otherwise. But at the same time, I think that the Prime Minister acted decisively on Friday. He accepted the recommendations immediately, and there will now, as we are aware, be an election for a new deputy leader. So all of that, I think, was dealt with expeditiously. I think the reshuffle was going to happen at some stage. He simply brought that forward and has demonstrated by his decision making that he wants to tackle in particular the question of small boats, which I'm sure you and your viewers would agree with.
Now, it's been called a right-wing Blairite cabinet, this new group of ministers. But the problem that the Prime Minister and the government has is that even if they take a more fiscally conservative approach to the budget, they're still surrounded and, in fact, dominated by lots of backbenchers who aren't going to vote for any cuts, potentially. Louise Haigh, a new deputy leader, just published a piece in the New Statesman essentially calling for the fiscal rules to be scrapped. Where does the government go from here? It's stalemate, isn't it?
Well, I think we've got to allow those new ministers to settle in, to recognise the challenge that they face. It's never easy. One of the things that I think was overlooked in the reshuffle is that this was the first reshuffle after the general election. And going back to my time, we won an election in 97. There was actually quite a big reshuffle in 98. And the reason for that is that the qualities and abilities required of politicians in opposition, campaigning, giving a strong, clear message, is not necessarily what is required in government, where there's a lot of detail, there's a lot of hard work, boxes come day in, day out with material that has to be decided upon. So I think to some extent this reshuffle is all about learning from the experience of the first year of ministers and then trying to find the right people for the right jobs, and in particular, as you have emphasised, making sure that the Home Office is fit for purpose and will deal with the challenge that is on everyone's lips right across the country.
And Geoff, I hear what you say there. Some ministers probably better in opposition than they proved in cabinet. You could apply that, couldn't you, to the Chancellor of the Exchequer? Because some of the changes he made to the internal workings of Number 10 are all about the Treasury. So we've got Darren Jones, who's now the Chief Secretary to the Treasury, who was Rachel Reeves' deputy. We've got somebody else helping her write the budget, Torsten Bell. We've got one of her tax experts now reporting to Number 10. And there's an economic advisor reporting directly to Keir Starmer. So how come Rachel Reeves is still in that job?
Because she is a master of detail.
Is she?
Has a tremendous background in...
Well, how did she get into that mess over the winter fuel allowance?
Well, I think that was a political misjudgment. It wasn't a question
Well, it was
of
her judgment.
Well, I accept that that did not go well, and no one can pretend otherwise. But on the other hand, this is someone who has a huge background in economics, in economic policy, and who has taken very difficult decisions, which is what we look to the Chancellor to do. But as far as number 10 is concerned, I actually think it's a very good thing that the Prime Minister is exercising overall control, because ultimately it is a matter for the Prime Minister. I think for too long the Treasury has been independent of Downing Street, and it's right that the Prime Minister, who after all one of his titles is First Lord of the Treasury, should be someone who ultimately accepts the responsibility for what happens in the Treasury. For too long that has not been the case, and I think it's right that he should assert himself in this way.
Now, following the departure of Angela Rayner, there is going to be an election for a new deputy leader of the Labour Party. That's a directly elected post. Who do you think will stand? Do you think there'll be some candidates that the government will prefer? Could it expose splits in the Labour Party?
I'm not there on a day-to-day basis, so I wouldn't pretend to assume that I know who might be a runner or a rider. But what I do think is important, I think almost certainly it probably ought to be a woman. I think probably it ought to be someone, and I accept this as someone perhaps not from the left of the Labour Party, that it probably ought to be someone on the left. But equally, what is absolutely vital about this job is that that person should become part of a team. They may well be elected as someone who's not totally signed up to everything that happens in the leadership, but at the same time they need to be somebody who can make a practical and effective contribution. And if you think about, certainly in my time, that John Prescott was a figure of the left, and he made that clear all the time. But at the same time, he worked constructively with Tony Blair as deputy leader to make sure that the policies of the party were delivered and the government took effective decisions. And that's the kind of figure that I think we should be looking for. Angela Rayner actually was very much like that. She was from the left, but nevertheless worked very effectively with Keir Starmer. So it's somebody who probably has a different point of view, but is prepared to be constructive and to work with the leadership. That, I think, is vital.
She, of course, as standing down, resigning, she didn't pay her tax, Jeff Hoon. We don't need to go through all that again. She did not, as she says, get the specialist advice she was recommended to get. Should she therefore forfeit the £17,000 redundancy money she is potentially entitled to?
I think those rules have been there for a very long time, and I think they're about to change, actually. So I think it's really a matter for her and a matter for the authorities.
Would you take it if you were in that position?
Yes, I think I did. Quite a long
but the
time
rules
ago.
are just about to change now. I mean, they'll be changing in a matter of weeks. So if she takes it, she's getting in just before the rule change.
Well, again, I think that's a matter for her and a matter for those who are responsible.
And Jeff, just looking ahead to the next general election, was probably nearly 4 years away. Labour not doing well in the polls. Of course, the Conservatives also doing very poorly in the polls.
Terrible in the polls, the Tories.
How worried is the Labour government and the Labour Party about reform? Could they see a repeat of what happened to the Tories at the last election?
There's no doubt that we have to take reform very seriously. Their success in the opinion polls has been consistent over quite a period now. So no one is ignoring their threat politically and indeed to the country. On the other hand, as you are saying, it's early days yet. Necessarily, it takes time to resolve the very many problems that the present government inherited from the Conservatives, and therefore we need to be patient about getting the right answers, delivering the results and making sure that they're successful. And that takes time. Nobody can pretend these things can be done overnight or even at the end of the first year. It's always the case that governments take some time to get into their stride, to get the right answers, to implement them, and for people, and this is the crucial thing, to see the results.
All right.
Well, Jeff Hoon, former Cabinet Minister, thanks so much for giving us so much of your time this morning.
Always good to talk to you, Jeff. Nice to see you again.
Thank you.
Yeah, and of course he was a great Blairite, of course.
Yeah, he was a minister for a long time, very experienced.
Very long, yeah. Defence Secretary, big job.
We've just been reminded how little experience so many Labour ministers have had because they were in opposition for a long time.
But if you look at Labour's, if you talk to Labour MPs, they say all the problems in the last 12, 13, 14 months have emanated from the Treasury.
Yeah.
Winter fuel, the botched attempt to get rid of disability benefit, the national insurance rise, which has cost all those jobs in the hospitality industry, no growth in the economy, unemployment going up, and yet the Chancellor Exchequer, she's still there.
They just weren't ready, were they? And they didn't have the plan. I think Jeremy Hunt, former Chancellor, said that some of those ideas, like the winter fuel allowance, were put in front of him as Chancellor by civil service. He said no. But they didn't have enough of a plan to be able to recognise whether all these things were sensible or politically advantageous. But I just remember being in the last government when the polls dropped to 20 and everybody thought we've got no chance. But they've dropped to 20 points after just 1 year. It's hard to see a way back.
After such an extraordinary landslide victory, one of the biggest victories post-war, albeit on a smaller share of the vote, only 34%.
Very turbulent times. Anything could happen.
Anything.
You could even win the Great British Giveaway.
Oh,
which is
very nice.
Yes, it would be good, wouldn't it? Our biggest prize package to date, worth an incredible £104,000. And it's your chance to drive away with a brand new 4-berth motorhome and some cash, Andrew.
£30,000 in tax-free cash. Here's all the details you need for a chance to be our biggest winner to date.
You're not going to want to miss our greatest Great British Giveaway so far. You could bank an incredible £30,000 in tax-free cash to spend however you like. And if that wasn't enough, you'll also get to drive away in this brand new motorhome. With thanks to Marquis Leisure, this brand new 2025 Benamar Primero could be yours. It comes with all the mod cons you'd expect from a vehicle worth over £74,000 and comfortably sleeps 4 people. This prize package is worth over £104,000. And remember, if you can dream it, you can drive it away. For another chance to win, text WIN to 63225. One entry costs £2.50 plus one standard network rate message. Or text BONUS to 63225. 5 entries cost £5 plus one standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start at £2.50. Call 0903 686 3232. Calls cost £2.50 plus your network access charge. Or post your name and number to GB16 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrants must be 18 or over. Lines close at 4 p.m. on the 31st of October. The winner will be contacted live on GB News, week commencing 10th November. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand. Good luck.
Well, coming up soon, we'll have the inside story on a case that's gripped the world. The woman known as the Mushroom Murderer has today been jailed for life after poisoning and killing 3 members of her own family.
What a wicked woman. I'm also going to be discussing the very worrying news that 2 GP surgeries are closing every week, and you wondered why you can't get an appointment with your doctor. This is Britain's Newsroom, Britain's favourite morning show. It's here on GB News.
You want to know what's really going on in the corridors of power? Labour don't know what to do with you half the time, and that makes you quite lethal in the chamber. Get behind the headlines with Chopper's Political Podcast. Join me, Christopher Hope, as I sit down with the great and the good of British politics. We'll see where this ruling takes us. These are the stories shaping our nation. Chopper's Political Podcast, available now on all platforms. Listen in and stay ahead.
Good afternoon, Britain. Weekdays from midday.
And the second season of the Duchess of Sussex's lifestyle show with Love Meghan, I know you're excited, Nana.
I can't wait.
Has now been released on Netflix.
These moments of discovery and beauty. So let's be curious together. Do you know who doesn't like lobster?
Who?
My husband.
And you'll marry him?
I was lucky enough to be given a sneak peek of all 8 episodes, so I've seen the entire thing. I think if you like a cooking show, if you don't want to think much when you're watching it, the show's probably for you.
But it's lies.
If you don't like Meghan Markle, if you don't like the Duchess of Sussex and how she's got to the show, arguably her critics would clearly say that she wouldn't have been given this platform without marrying Prince Harry, etc., then you're going to hate it. I mean, Meghan clearly has a passion for it. I think the top line, actually, is the fact that she says she was unwell when she was forced to be away from her children for almost 3 weeks. And what we suspect that period was after the Queen's death in 2022. Remember, she was here with Harry, and then obviously the Queen died, so they were here for another couple of weeks.
And hasn't she flown over some chef to show her how to cook things because she doesn't really know how to do it?
Yeah, the chef who cooks for her wedding with Harry, she's been flown over into a very, very complicated halibut. And there's lots of behind-the-scenes photos of that wedding as well. So again, it's that link to the royal family that keeps
dragging the royal family
through.
back into it just to give her something to say to make her of interest. I'm just kind of bored of it all now. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean, I think...
I'm just bored of it.
I think we'll see. It'll be interesting to see how it rates, because obviously the only one that really rated well for Netflix was when they were, you know, talking about themselves leaving the royal family, where clearly they spilled a lot of royal secrets. So that rated very well. The first season of With Love, Meghan did OK, but it wasn't the most highly rated show on Netflix. We'll see what season 2 does. I mean, Meghan clearly has a passion for it. It's what she did with the Tig before she was a working member of the royal family. You're either going to love it or hate it, aren't you?
Grifting?
It's Marmite.
The People's Channel.
It's Patrick Christie's Tonight, and here we do things differently. It's explaining the absolute madness of this, doesn't it? It's explosive. I mean, this is very good. It's lively.
850. Your government sat there, Sean, and it did nothing.
It's controversial. And the Middle East has been in turmoil since before I was born. It's everything you need to kickstart your evening. Everyone's had their Weetabix tonight. I love to see it. That's Patrick Christie's Tonight, weeknights from 9 p.m. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
10:26, Britain's Newsroom on GB News. Andrew Moon, we've got the panel here. Former Labour writer Matthew Talbot, broadcasting journalist Claire Muldoon. Matthew, you were saying last Monday on this programme she had to go, Rayner.
Yeah, it seemed obvious to me. I took no joy in it. I felt desperately sorry. I think, and people would disagree, knowing Angela, she's either been sloppy, made a mistake. I don't think it was purposeful, but as we know, politics is brutal, and you have to pay the price, unfortunately, in this climate, and she was always going to have to go for me.
I know we want to move on a bit from Rayner, but I thought it was pathetic. The handwritten note. By the way, he's got rather childlike writing, hasn't he, the Prime Minister? To my dear Angela. And all this stuff about integrity. Why? She didn't pay £40,000 and she was Secretary of State for Housing. She didn't bother to get the specialist advice she was advised to get by more than one person. Why do we feel sorry for her?
I don't know. I don't know what the litmus test here is for people feeling sorry for other people. But for me, as a member of the public, as a voter, I would far rather that she be held to her account for the Minister of Housing, the post that she had, and she be dealt and judged on that, which I'm not sure is such a great thing that she did whilst there. They didn't meet their targets. They didn't seem to mean Grenfell now is still on the cards, and I know the site is going to be demolished. But, you know, she wasn't really the champion, was she, of homes and building homes and, you know, getting people back on the ladder and helping societies, helping villages grow society, grow human beings, grow young children, grow culture. None of that, I'm afraid, none of it.
One of the policies she did champion was the Employment Rights Bill. That now seems to be under threat. The unions today coming out and issuing their own threats to the Labour Party if they don't continue with it. Do you think it will carry on or will it be watered down?
It'll almost certainly be watered down. I have no doubts about that. I think Labour are very concerned, obviously, about the economy and voices within business. We've certainly, over the last 2 years, I would say, bent over backwards to appease business. And I think there's an element of taking the membership for granted. I would add, however, it felt like a bit of a clobbering, even as someone that believes in workers' rights and would probably be on the left of the Labour Party. It goes very much against normal Treasury orthodoxy to be putting a rise in NICs when there's been no growth. And I think you either should have done the national minimum wage or the NICs, not both, at a time where businesses are in.
Rise in NICs, what do you mean?
National insurance contributions for small businesses, small and medium businesses have been clobbered by it. And I think they should have done one or the other, not both.
If they all try to water this bill down, such as giving people the right of sick pay and maternity pay on day one of a new job, does she, Rayner, have power on the backbenches to cause considerable trouble for Starmer?
Incredibly popular politician within the Labour Party.
Despite all this?
Oh, yeah, she's loved by the Labour Party and still will continue to be so. So she definitely has the potential to do so. Whether she does, whether she feels very burnt like this, I wonder whether she'll stand at the next election, whether it's been a whole bruising process for her and she wants to put the family first. But there's definitely potential for it. And actually, I think it's very underpriced that the more unpalatable things Labour backbenchers are asked to do. We've had another go at welfare again, trying to cut there, whether it's the watering down of the welfare stuff, the workers' rights stuff. I think there will be a split in the next 12 to 18 months.
Look,
I think that's very
I need to
underpriced.
champion business here and growth, because this is going to cost, her bill is estimated to cost businesses £5 billion a year.
That was her
right.
department.
That's her own advice as she was given for this. Now, whilst, OK, it's great to have workers' rights, etc., etc., we don't want anyone to be marginalised or whatever, but the reality is most people are being recruited now online. Poor companies don't actually know the quality of the person that they're getting through, and you cannot get rid of them.
No.
And people will go into... There's no service, there's no industry, there's no diligence, there's no discipline, there's no pride, right, in people's work. And you're supposed to let that happen? And everyone will say, oh, yeah, but there's ways to get through that. You've got the... Meanwhile, you're 3 months down a tribunal, you've got everyone angsty and high levels of anxiety, and you still can't get rid of the person who cannot turn up for work on time, who cannot do the job they're being paid to do, and meanwhile, everyone else is paying for it.
Well, we are going to stick with the papers, but we're just going to have a 60-second news update first with Tatiana Sanchez. Don't go anywhere, we'll be back very soon.
Yes, thank you and good morning. The top stories. Labour's ruling body will meet today to draw up plans for a deputy leadership election as MPs consider whether to enter the race to replace Angela Rayner. The newly appointed Home Secretary, Shabana Mahmood, says migrants will be returned to France imminently. That's as she prepares to host a security alliance alongside ministers from countries like America and Canada to discuss the rise of people smuggling gangs. Commuters across the capital are facing severe disruption as tube strikes have shut down nearly all of London Underground services. Tube staff have begun a 5-day strike over paying conditions. An Australian mother who murdered her estranged husband's parents and aunt by feeding them a beef Wellington laced with poisonous mushrooms has been jailed for life with a minimum of 33 years. And Rick Davies, the co-founder and vocalist of Supertramp, has died at the age of 81. Those are the latest GB News headlines for now. More at the top of the hour.
Take the GB News family with you on any device. As long as you have an internet connection, tune into GB News anywhere on the planet or beyond.
You're watching Britain's Newsroom. We've still got our excellent panel with us this morning, Matthew Torbett and Claire Muldoon. And we've just been talking about the Rayner debacle, but she's left a vacancy.
She has. Deputy of the Labour Party, an elected post, very significant, very symbolic. They've had some very significant people in that job. Harriet Harman, for instance, deputy leader, very successfully. Tom Watson, now in the Lords, as is Harriet. Who's going to get it? And how damaging could this be for Starmer? Because presumably, when they exhibit their wares, a lot of it will be, it's so rubbish, you need me to try and lead the government in the right direction.
Yeah, to be clear, this whole process is insane that we're going ahead with it. This is essentially a non-role where you're going to sit on the back benches and pretend to have some sort of authority in some position. You're going to have a lot of soft-left politicians with a nationwide platform during a no doubt a televised hustings debate to talk about how awful the last 12 months have been and what we need to be doing differently, as if they're going to have the authority to change any of that.
Will we have another reset, Matthew, do you think?
we might be on phase 4.
This party's had more resets than my Apple iPhone, for heaven's sake.
We're probably on phase 4 or 5 after this week. Yeah. It's going to come eventually, surely. No, I think the obvious favourite for me would be Emily Thornberry. She wouldn't be my choice. Incredibly popular with the Labour membership.
Make it into the cabinet.
Yeah, this is like a
ministerial job, so this be her revenge.
That's something out of a mafia film where the sort of the one that's been destroyed comes back to bite the leader on the backside. Well, quite. So I think
could Rayner have stayed on as deputy leader?
Yeah, she doesn't have to resign. She could have been
fascinating.
It really would have been. That would have been popcorn at dawn, wouldn't it?
But isn't it? You're a bit of a lame duck if you're on the back benches, though. Surely you might have this in theoretical position of being the deputy leader of the party, but if you can't be in the cabinet, and let's say Emily Thornberry won, what position would she be brought into, or would she co-lead the Labour Party from the back.
Well, see, that's the thing, and that's the other wonderful thing about British politics, is the way in which the two main parties actually elect both their leaders and their deputies, etc., etc. And I would say,
well, the
Matthew,
Conservative Party doesn't do that.
Well, no, but Matthew, you can correct me if I'm wrong, but the Labour government and the Labour Party seems to have more autocratic ways of doing it, in the sense that the unions have a say, the members have a say, etc., etc. So it's actually quite democratic, is it not?
Yes.
So what would be the process then of electing the Deputy Prime Minister?
So you've got to have 20%... Well, it won't be the Deputy Prime Minister, this is the nightmare of it. They will be the Deputy Leader of the Labour Party, a lame duck sort of thing. You need 20% of Labour MPs, which is about 80 MPs, so it'll nullify any sort of real socialist left challenger, because there's only about 40 of them. You need a third, I think, of trade unions or affiliated groups, whether that be sort of Scientists for Labour and these sort of socialist societies that we've got.
RMT that are striking today and bringing London to an absolute
no, in
standstill.
fairness, RMT have not been affiliated for many years now. ASLEF are, however, the sort of trade union. So there's several unions that can nominate, and then I think normally you have to get a certain amount of CLP backings, local Labour Party backings. I don't know if that will be the case with this.
I read 5% of local parties.
And they're all going to have to do it by Thursday, apparently, for the MPs. So they've got to be going now. Yeah,
they can do it remotely because
it's very much being moulded to ensure Keir gets the sort of most palatable person.
We talked to Jeff Hoon a little earlier, the former cabinet minister, Labour cabinet minister, and he said it has to be a woman. He thought, and he said it should be somebody of the left, which rules out Shabana Mahmood, the Justice Secretary, who some people think would be Starmer's preferred choice. Starmer's preferred choice is never going to win, because they want to put someone in there to keep an eye on him.
No, yeah, the parties, the party membership, a bit like the Tories, the Tory membership seems to be slightly to the right of the Conservative Party in Parliament. Ours is to the left of the...
to the right, say a lot.
I was being generous. But no, I just think scrap the post. Do what the Tories do. Nominate a de facto, like you've done with David Lammy. Otherwise, we end up with these ridiculous situations like Corbyn and Watson, and even at the beginning, Rayner and Starmer. Like, they don't get on. All it does is promote chaos.
It's a dangerous arranged marriage.
When they took the knee together?
Oh, my goodness me.
There were sort of virtue signalling.
Absolutely, that's exactly what it was.
Can I just pick up on something Matthew said? Well, it was Jeff Hoon saying that the next deputy leader
has to be a woman.
Why?
How patronising.
Criticism for not having had a female leader. I don't care.
I want the best person in the job.
Do you know what I would want, regardless of gender, is we need somebody from the north, genuinely. We are already perceived to be a totally London-centric party. We have an MP who represents a London constituency. We have leaders like that for years. Angela offered that at least northern working class sort of roots. We need somebody of that ilk.
Well, the last three Labour leaders have all lived within a few miles in North London.
So is it any wonder people have the perceptions they do?
And Emily Thornbury, is she Islington South?
Also Islington as well. She'll live round the corner from the leader. So
she's a landlord as well, and a landlord.
That's why she wouldn't be my choice.
It's a sign of the times, isn't it? The realignment of politics, where Labour used to command so many votes in the north, the post-industrial Midlands. They're losing those votes to reform, and actually their new base is in liberal London and places like that.
Yeah, and you see the same in America. The Republicans and the Democrats have almost done a role reversal as well, where the sort of university-educated, liberal, wealthy voters are the ones that are leaning more towards the Democrats and Labour than...
Let's hope they don't go green. That's all I'll say.
It'll be a very colourful...
That new Green leader, Zach Polanski, he's going to be great copy, let me tell you.
He'll be great copy.
It's going to be fascinating, if you're an impartial observer. Terrifying for all those standing for election. Well, thank you to our panellists. See you again in an hour. And coming up next, we're going to have the full story from Australia, where the woman known as the mushroom murderer has been jailed for life after poisoning and killing 3 members of her estranged husband's family.
Amazing. This is Britain's Newsroom on GB News.
Good morning, welcome to your latest GB News weather forecast. Well, it's going to be a day of sunshine and showers for most of us. And compared to the weekend, it will be feeling a little bit fresher out there. So we do start the day with lots of sunshine around, especially out towards the east. In the west, we're starting to already see some showers develop, and as the day goes on, they'll gradually become a little bit more widespread across the UK. Always most frequent out towards the west, and some of these showers could be potentially on the heavy and thundery side. As I mentioned, compared to the weekend, temperatures will be down a few degrees, but still reaching around 21 or 22 degrees in the southeast. So I think if you're in the sunshine, it won't feel too bad out there.
So looking into the evening in a little bit more detail across southern parts of the UK, any showers in the east generally beginning to fade away, but they will continue for a little while yet across the West Country, parts of Wales, northwest England too. Also, a similar story for Northern Ireland and Scotland. Western parts of Northern Ireland and Scotland continuing to see some showers. Again, some of these showers could be on the heavy side, but the further east you are, better chance of staying dry with some late spells of sunshine. And really, as we move throughout the course of the night, very little changes. Still the risk of some showers across the west. Greatest chance of the clearest skies out towards the east. And then subtle differences down towards the southwest later on in the night. We start to see the winds pick up ahead of this next showery feature, which will be arriving during the course of Tuesday. Ahead of it, though, under the clear skies, turning quite chilly in the countryside, but I think most towns and cities staying in double figures. So for most of us on Tuesday, it does start off bright with lots of sunshine, but this band of showery rain across the southwest will gradually spread into parts of Wales and Northern Ireland too. So quite a disappointing day to come here with the rain potentially on the heavy side in places. Ahead of it, largely dry, could just see the odd shower around, but in the sunshine, not feeling too bad out there, with again in the southeast highs reaching 21 or 22 degrees.
Crash Law 24 sponsors GB News Traffic and Travel Report.
Good morning. This is the latest AI travel news from gbnews.com. On the M25 heading anti-clockwise between junction 18 and junction 15, expect congestion with 50 minutes of delays. Over in Staffordshire, the A38 southbound is experiencing 10-minute delays between its junctions with the A513 and A5192. Kent witnesses a serious incident with a vehicle fire closing all lanes on the M20 westbound between junction 3 and junction 1, causing 30-minute delays. And on the trains, significant disruption is affecting Chiltern Railways to and from London Marylebone, while Avanti West Coast faces issues between Tamworth and Nuneaton. For more travel news, go to gbnews.com.
Crash Law 24 sponsors GB News Traffic and Travel Report.
It's 10:41, Britain's Newsroom on GB News with Andrew and Miriam.
Now, a story that's gripped the world. The woman known as the mushroom murderer has been jailed for life.
Erin Patterson killed 3 elderly relatives of her estranged husband after cooking them a meal that contained poisonous mushrooms.
Well, Patterson was sentenced overnight, and our reporter Sophie Reaper has the full shocking story.
An act of evil that rocked a small Australian town. In July of 2023, Erin Patterson lured 4 members of her family to her house with the promise of a home-cooked meal. They sat at this table and began to eat a beef Wellington they thought had been made with love. Instead, it had been made with poisonous death cap mushrooms and was designed to kill them. All of the diners were initially treated at Leongatha Hospital. However, although she too alleged to have been taken ill, CCTV showed Erin stopping at a service station before going to the hospital. She also discharged herself from treatment after just 1 day. Meanwhile, just a week later, the toxic lunch would claim the lives of Erin's mother-in-law, Gail, her father-in-law, Donald, and Gail's sister, Heather. That left the only survivor of the meal as Heather's husband, Ian Wilkinson. Following a huge police investigation, Erin Patterson was initially charged with 3 counts of murder and 5 counts of attempted murder. That included 4 counts of also attempting to poison her estranged husband Simon on several previous occasions. In fact, he told a pre-trial hearing that he'd been invited to the lunch in 2023, but ultimately cancelled last minute. He said, "After the first time I got sick, I had the idea I got sick from Erin's food. As a result, he began keeping a spreadsheet of his wife's cooking and how it had made him ill." The previous alleged poisonings left Simon close to death, leaving him temporarily paralysed and with part of his bowel removed. However, the prosecution eventually dropped the 4 attempted murder charges relating to Simon on the eve of the trial, and so they were never heard before a jury. In April this year, a court began to hear details of the 3 murder and 1 attempted murder charges faced by Erin Patterson. Throughout the trial, Patterson maintained her innocence, calling the deaths a terrible accident. Despite this, in July, a jury found her guilty on all 4 counts. Now, the so-called mushroom murderer, she awaits a life behind bars, as her remaining friends and family attempt to pick up the pieces of their lives and move on. Sophie Reaper, GB News.
Well, extraordinary story.
Amazing story. You could just feel Netflix, the drama,
Indeed,
Netflix, the series, or the film.
Yeah.
It's got everything, hasn't it?
Yes, and as we've said, it has shocked the world.
Really has.
Well, coming up next, we're going to be joined by a travel expert to get the latest on those tube strikes that have caused chaos in London this morning, and indeed caused you to miss our little teas on breakfast, didn't they?
Certainly did. And if you were going to the Coldplay concert at Wembley tonight, you're not now, I'm afraid, because they've cancelled it, and there's other stuff being cancelled too, which we'll bring you.
It's going to be impossible. But first of all, in happier news, if you're in search of some holiday sun, here's the forecast for some of the top European destinations, if you can get there.
Ready to soak up that holiday sunshine?
Won't we need some cover?
No worries. All sorted.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations Forecast.
Hello there. An unsettled couple of days to come across parts of Spain and Italy with some heavy showers around. But for the Canaries, actually, next couple of days, largely fine, apart from the odd shower around. Plenty of sunshine, actually, for parts of Portugal and western Spain. But for eastern Spain, the Balearics, parts of Italy, southern France, some heavy and thundery downpours around. But for much of Greece and Turkey, fine a couple of days to come, with temperatures here reaching the high 20s.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations Forecast.
Hi, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and my show is your opportunity to cut through all the noise and dive in headfirst to some robust debates. Ideas clash.
Situation, isn't it?
Because
the failure is
you're deliberately avoiding my point. Nothing's held back,
And if you think this is the end of it, wait for more.
and we do not shy away from the difficult stuff.
Sometimes I want to shake people and say, if only you understood.
So join me on Jubes & Kerr weeknights at 6 p.m. only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Join me, Nana Okoye, for an informative, interactive news programme with a difference. It's fun.
No, he didn't say that, Dave.
I'm so surprised.
I think there's an element of truth to that.
Join me from 3 p.m. every weekend, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Mornings don't have to be tiresome, especially if you have the right company.
Wake up to news as it happens, opinion and debate, and of course, a little bit of entertainment too.
Because when the kettle's on, we're on.
That's Breakfast on GB News, a show worth waking up for.
Every morning from 6 a.m.
Only on the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
We'll spread the news, you spread the word.
Britain was once the envy of the world. But look around. A nation that no longer knows what it is or where it's going. A country that's broken. How do we fix Britain? How do we bring it back? Friday night with Matt Goodwin at 8 p.m. only on GB News.
It's Patrick Christie's Tonight, and here we do things differently. It's explaining the absolute madness of this, doesn't it? It's explosive. I mean, this is very good. It's lively.
850. Your government sat there, Sean, and it did nothing.
It's controversial. And the Middle East has been in turmoil since before I was born. It's everything you need to kickstart your evening. Everyone's had their Weetabix tonight. I love to see it. That's Patrick Christie's Tonight, weeknights from 9 p.m. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Westminster's full of talk, but out here, it's the real world.
Am I allowed to talk now?
No, that's it. This is where it matters, real people and real lives. That's what politics is all about.
In fact, has Trump made a good start? No.
Straight answers, no spin, and just a couple of pints.
How many fingers have I got up?
About 10. So join me for Lee Anderson's Real World every Friday at 7 p.m. only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
At GB News, we love to hear from you, our loyal community. So drop us a line at gbnews.com/yoursay. There you can talk to each other and also to the presenters live on air. gbnews.com/yoursay, because GB News is your channel, Britain's news channel.
Welcome back to Britain's Newsroom, and let's bring you some breaking news now, because the Prince of Wales is to be joined by the Princess of Wales at an engagement to commemorate the life of Her late Majesty Queen Elizabeth II, marking the 3-year anniversary of her death.
So we thought the Prince was going to originally schedule today's event alone, but Kensington Palace say the Princess was keen to join her husband to commemorate and celebrate the life of the late Queen. And of course, today, we know that Prince Harry is flying into Britain. He plans to visit the last resting place of the late Queen. He's here all week, and there's a lot of speculation as to whether he'll get to see the King. And of course, I'm sure, Catherine, that Princess of Wales is always going to be there with Prince of Wales, but as you were saying, Miriam, it shows that they are a team.
They're a team.
They do things together. I like Harry and Meghan. We haven't seen Meghan in this country for 3 years, and you know what? I ain't disappointed about that.
Well, I don't think, sadly, Harry and William are going to reconcile.
No chance.
Although, as we've heard, perhaps, maybe he'll meet the King. We'll see.
Maybe.
Well, that's if they can get there, because millions of commuters across London are facing severe disruption as a tube strike has shut down nearly all London Underground services.
The 5-day strike is over pay and conditions. TfL has offered a 3.4% pay rise, which it describes as fair, and said it can't afford to meet the RMT's demand for cutting the working week from 35 hours to 32. Plus, they also want huge, in my view, concessionary fares. Let's talk to the travel correspondent for The Independent, Simon Calder, who is Mr. Travel. If there is anybody who is Mr. Travel, it is Simon. Simon, morning to you, and always lovely to see you. We've had tube strikes before that have been called off at the last minute. Not so this time. Is it pretty bleak across the network?
It's absolutely horrible. Now, I know if you are outside London, you're probably going to think, well, tough luck. You know, you've got much better public transport, so just get used to what the rest of us have. But actually, this is, of course, the economic motor for the entire country, looking at a hit of £220 million to the economy as a result of this strike. And the way that the RMT union is doing it is really clever. They've basically got kind of 3 different groups of workers, all of whom do different things, and they're taking just a day or 2 strike action each. So for the price of losing a day or 2's wages, you actually close down the capital for the best part of the week, which is a really kind of effective way of getting a lot of bang for your buck and causing absolute maximum disruption for minimum loss of pay. And yes, it's horrible out there. As you will know, the tube is the lifeblood of the capital. Everybody uses it to get pretty much everywhere. Now, it hasn't that doesn't mean all transport shut down. For instance, the Elizabeth line, which runs east-west from Reading and Heathrow, where I am, through to East London, that's still going, as are the London Underground routes, but they are incredibly busy. Indeed, across North London on London Underground, London Overground this morning, we saw trains delayed by half an hour or so because simply too many people trying to get on them. And some of the other escape routes that you would have, for instance, Wembley down to Marylebone on a normal train, that's been cancelled all morning due to a points failure. It's really miserable for millions of people, and of course extraordinarily reputationally damaging for the capital as well.
Andrew and I have both experienced this morning. It is going to cause unbelievable costs this week, economic costs, inconvenience. Do you think there's a chance that TfL will actually give in as a result of the disruption?
Well, look, the RMT union and indeed the train drivers union, ASLEF, which is not involved in this, have kind of got used to the idea that there is a magic money tree, and every time they go on strike, they will finally, if they strike for long enough, they will cause so much economic harm that the government, or in this case, the Mayor of London, Transport for London, will just give in and meet their demands. But you mentioned earlier, earlier that strikes have been called off at the last moment. That was kind of throwing the odd 30 million quid in last time. This was about a year ago. This time, the two sides are so far apart, and we've got a new General Secretary at the RMT, Eddie Dempsey. He's very keen to make a name for himself.
Simon, I'm so sorry. We're going to have to cut it there because we need to get to the break. But thank you so much. We'll probably have you on again later on in the week.
Yeah, so check before you get travel. That's the advice. Let's go to the weather.
Today, clouds overhead, total zen within. Boxed Solar sponsors the weather on GB News.
Hello there, good morning. Welcome to your GB News weather update from the Met Office. It's set to be a day of sunshine and showers, but many eastern areas will see a mostly dry day, plenty of sunny spells, though feeling a little cooler than it did yesterday. And the reason for the showers, well, it's all thanks to low pressure just to the south of Iceland, dragging in some frontal systems at times. So it's mainly western areas that will see the bulk of the showers today. Some could turn heavy. We may see some hail and thunder, but most showers should be light to moderate, though they could be fairly blustery around western coasts of Scotland, and many eastern areas should avoid the bulk of the showers. So a mostly dry day ahead for much of England and Wales, and seeing the return of the sunshine after quite an unsettled day yesterday. Similar temperatures, highs reaching around 22 degrees Celsius. Then to finish off the day, we are still going to see some of these showers continue. Once again, fairly blustery around western coasts of Scotland, but across the far northeast, it should be a mostly dry and clear end to the day. Similar across Northern Ireland, northwestern parts of England, still a chance we could see some showers, and also across Wales and parts of southwest England. But across central areas, parts of the east-southeast, once again, a dry and clear end to the day. And any showers remaining across the west will soon ease away through the course of the night, and it's going to leave plenty of clear spells across the country, so it is going to be feeling fairly cool, quite fresh by the time we reach the early hours of the morning. We may even see some patchy mist and fog in places. But a slightly different story across southern parts of Wales, southwest England, more cloud and a bit of a breeze picking up here. But it is set to be a cool, fresh start, lows reaching around 7 to 8 degrees Celsius. A fairly similar day on Tuesday. Once again, we could see some showers, particularly across the west, but for the bulk of the country, a dry and settled day ahead. Across parts of Wales, southwest England, once again, we'll see more clouds, so hazy sorts of spells of sunshine, and then once again, we could see some heavy downpours by the afternoon. But once again, highs reaching around 22 degrees Celsius.
Today, clouds overhead, total zen within. Boxed Solar sponsors the weather on GB News.
You could bank an incredible £30,000 in tax-free cash to spend however you like. And if that wasn't enough, you'll also get to drive away in this brand new motorhome. This brand new 2025 Benamar Primero could be yours. It comes with all the mod cons you'd expect from a vehicle worth over £74,000 and comfortably sleeps 4 people. This prize package is worth over £104,000. For another chance to win, text WIN to 63225. One entry costs £2.50 plus one standard network rate message, or text bonus to 63225. 5 entries cost £5 plus one standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start at £2.50. Call 0903 686 3232. Calls cost £2.50 plus your network access charge. Or post your name and number to GB16 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 4 p.m. on the 31st of October. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand.
Mornings don't have to be tiresome, especially if you have the right company.
Wake up to news as it happens, opinion and debate, and of course, a little bit of entertainment too.
Because when the kettle's on, we're on.
That's Breakfast on GB News, a show worth waking up for.
Every morning from 6 a.m.
Only on the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
We'll spread the news, you spread the word.
From the school run to the home run, watch a new show for all of Britain.
So he can say whatever he wants.
A straight talking show where all voices are heard.
And, you know, when are we going to stop talking about smashing the gangs and actually do it?
With the stories that matter from every part of our country.
There's a bit of a crash landing there for your Chancellor.
Bold, fearless and standing up for you. That's me, Martin Dordme, 3 p.m. till 6 p.m, weekdays, here only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Britain was once the envy of the world. But look around. A nation that no longer knows what it is or where it's going. A country that's broken. How do we fix Britain? How do we bring it back? Friday night with Matt Goodwin at 8 p.m. only on GB News.
At GB News, we love to hear from you, our loyal community. So drop us a line at gbnews.com/yoursay. There you can talk to each other and also to the presenters live on air. gbnews.com/yoursay, because GB News is your channel, Britain's news channel.
Join me, Nana Akwe, for an informative, interactive news programme with a difference. It's fun.
No, you didn't say that, Dave. I'm so surprised. I think there's an element of truth to that.
Join me from 3 p.m. every weekend, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
It's 11 o'clock on Monday, the 8th of September, live across the UK, Britain's Newsroom with Andrew Pearce and Miriam Cates.
Well, it might be a new week, but it's the same old problems for Sir Keir Starmer and the Labour Party.
So Keir Starmer starts the week with a new team around the cabinet table. They meet tomorrow, but problems could emerge as soon as lunchtime today. The NEC, the thing which governs the role of the party, they will set the rules for elections for the deputy leader. Will a critic be elected as his number 2 in the party?
And if the Labour Party doesn't have enough problems, more than 1,000 small more than 1,000 migrants crossed the Channel illegally on Saturday. Shabana Mahmood's first full day as Home Secretary. She's holding talks today with ministers from the United States, Canada, Australia and New Zealand as they battle to get a grip of the migrant crisis. And don't forget, the French government could fall in the next 24 hours, which will make it even worse.
And British women are having fewer children than ever. An expert will be joining us in the studio to tell us why we should all be worried.
Must be delighted to know that Prince Harry's back in the UK. He's not seen his father for more than 18 months. Will they finally meet up again this week?
Could be some big news from France tonight, because Absolutely. It looks like their 5th Prime Minister in 2 years is about to be defenestrated and lose a vote of no confidence in their Parliament.
Which means the one-in, one-out deal, probably, which isn't working anyway, which Home Secretary Yvette Cooper negotiated in July, gone.
Yeah.
And also the plan for the police, the French gendarmes, to go into the shallower water to apprehend the dinghies, finished.
One of the candidates to replace François Bayrou, if he does fall, as looks likely, is the socialist Olivier Faure, I think he's called. And he's already called the one-in, one-out system inhumane and talked about plans to reunite more families with their beloved ones in the UK. So that could make the whole thing a lot worse.
And his politics are hard left, which could mean a major financial crisis across the Channel, which will spread across the Channel to us.
And of course, Marine Le Pen's party got the most votes in the last election, but there's absolutely no way that Emmanuel Macron will appoint a Prime Minister from her party. He thinks they're far right.
He certainly does. We'd love to hear what you think. Send your views, post your comments by visiting
gbnews.com/yoursay. But first, here's the news with Tatiana Sanchez.
Miriam, thank you very much and good morning. The top stories, that breaking news that the Prince of Wales is to be joined by the Princess of Wales at an engagement to commemorate the life of Her late Majesty Queen Elizabeth II, marking the 3-year anniversary of her death. The Prince had originally been scheduled to attend the event alone. Kensington Palace sources say the Princess of Wales was keen to join her husband to commemorate and celebrate the life of the late Queen. Elsewhere today, Labour's ruling body will meet to draw up plans for a deputy leadership election as MPs consider whether to enter the race to replace Angela Rayner. The National Executive Committee will hold talks aimed at deciding on a timeline and rules for the contest, including how many nominations from MPs will be needed for candidates to make a ballot. Home Secretary Shabana Mahmood, who's been tasked with tightening the government's grip on immigration, has not yet made a decision on whether to run, it's understood. Well, Well, it's as the newly appointed Home Secretary says migrants will be returned to France imminently. That's as she prepares to host a security alliance alongside ministers from countries like America and Canada to discuss the rise of people smuggling gangs. It comes after 1,000 migrants crossed the English Channel on the Home Secretary's first full day in office, bringing the total this year to over 30,000. Shadow Business Secretary Andrew Griffith spoke to GB News.
Well, look, words are cheap, and this has been going on for a very long period of time now under this government. They said they had a plan. They clearly don't have a plan. They could adopt our deportation bill, which would address some of this. They should never have cancelled the Rwanda deterrent, which would have had the effect, as many other countries are now pursuing, of being able to remove people to third countries if they can't be sent back from where they came. Nobody should be coming here from France. France is a safe country. We don't always agree with their menu choices, but they have human rights. And if people are fleeing persecution, then they should be staying in France. They don't need to take that dangerous criminal endeavour across the Channel.
Defence Secretary John Healey says the government is looking at military and non-military sites to house asylum seekers.
What we recognise is the progress that the government has made in the first year. 35,000 people deported who've got no right to be here, more than before. We're reducing the number of asylum hotels. We're increasing the National Crime Agency raids on crime networks. But expensive asylum hotels will be closed. That's a commitment we've made, and the Prime Minister wants to speed that up. So I'm working closely with the Home Office, and will do with the new Home Secretary, to look at the scope for military sites and non-military sites to be the places where we can house some of the asylum seekers, some of the immigrants in the future.
In other news, commuters across the capital are facing severe disruption as tube strikes have shut down nearly all of the London Underground services. Tube staff have begun a 5-day strike over paying conditions. TfL has offered a 3.4% pay rise, which it described as fair, and said it cannot afford to meet the RMT's demand for a cut in the working week. Nick Dent, London Underground's Director of Customer Operations, said union demands for a cut in the 35-hour week were simply unaffordable and would cost hundreds of millions of pounds. Tube drivers can already earn up to £72,849 a year for a 35-hour week, with benefits including 43 days holiday and extensive travel perks. TUC General Secretary Paul Novak has spoken this morning.
Obviously, decisions about the relationship between Unite and Labour are down to Sharon and her members. What I would say this is, even the Prime Minister himself last week said that he understood that people were frustrated and angry that change hadn't been delivered as fast as people wanted. And that's what the government was elected 14 months ago to do. That manifesto had one word on the front of it: change. And I think for far too many people that still feels like a slogan rather than part of their everyday lives. So today in my Congress speech, I'll be asking the government to show whose side they're on, to be on the side of working class communities up and down the country, and to deliver the change that people voted for. Whether that's improved workers' rights, whether that's better public services, show people you're serious about change.
Benjamin Netanyahu is at the scene where at least 5 people have been killed and 7 seriously wounded in a shooting attack in Jerusalem. 9 people with gunshot wounds were taken to local hospitals, along with 3 others injured by broken glass. 2 attackers boarded a bus and opened fire as it reached a major intersection at the northern entrance to Jerusalem on a road that leads to Jewish settlements in East Jerusalem. Police said 2 attackers were neutralised soon after. A spokesperson for Israeli Emergency Services MDA said among the 5 victims were a man about 50 years old and 3 men aged around 30. An Australian mother who murdered her estranged husband's parents and aunt by feeding them a beef Wellington laced with poisonous mushrooms has been jailed for life with a minimum of 33 years. 50-year-old Erin Patterson lured her former parents-in-law, Don and Gail Patterson, both 70, and Gail Patterson's sister Heather Wilkinson to lunch at her home in Victoria in July of 2023. Mrs. Wilkinson's husband, Reverend Ian Wilkinson, also ate the meal but survived after receiving a liver transplant and spending months in hospital. Patterson, a mother of 2, had made the pastry dish with deadly death cap mushrooms. The judge said her lack of remorse meant her sentence should be lengthy. And New Zealand police have found the 2 missing children of fugitive Tom Phillips, who was killed in Western Waikato early this morning. Phillips had been on the run with his 3 children for almost 4 years in the wilderness until he was fatally shot by police officers who were responding to an armed robbery. One of the children was with Phillips and was unharmed. That child assisted police in locating their siblings as officers conducted a manhunt. Their mother says she's saddened by the events, but also deeply relieved her children's ordeal has come to an end. Those are the latest headlines for now. More from me in half an hour.
Cheers Britannia Wine Club proudly sponsors the GB News Financial Report.
And here's a quick snapshot of today's markets. The pound will buy you $1.3510 and €1.1522 euros. The price of gold is £2,674.27 per ounce, and the FTSE 100 is at 9,223 points.
Cheers Britannia Wine Club proudly sponsors the GB News Financial Report.
Hello, welcome back to Britain's Newsroom. We're live across the United Kingdom on GB News with Andrew Pearce and Miriam Cates.
No end in sight of misery for Sir Keir Starmer. By definition, that means for all of us, because when it's going wrong with him, it means it's going wrong for the country. Now, the powerful trade unions are turning their sights on him.
Yes, after the leader of the Unite union warned that they may withdraw support for the party, the country's most senior trade unionist, Paul Nowak, will tell the TUC conference today that Labour must show working-class communities whose side they're on.
And the migrant crisis got a lot worse over the weekend, with more than 1,000 asylum seekers illegally crossing the Channel on Saturday, which just happened to be the first day Shabana Mahmood was in her new job as Home Secretary.
Well, let's speak to GB News' political editor, Christopher Hope. Good morning, Chris. Very difficult inbox for Shabana Mahmood, but the government has made an announcement about a change to the asylum accommodation.
That's right. The announcement is a bit strong, maybe, Miriam. We think they're going to go towards moving asylum seekers from hotels. The target there, of course, is by 2029, move them into, it looks like, army camps, and they're looking for areas with hard standing to create what might be dubbed Nightingale centres to hold them, i.e. temporary structures. We saw that, of course, those Nightingale hospitals during the COVID pandemic. That's the idea, which is obviously preferable to HMOs, houses of multiple occupation. That would mean you might have houses of 6, 7, 8, mainly young men, next door to families in communities. Of course, those young men not vetted, no one knows where they're from, free to come and go. That would be probably even more difficult for communities to understand rather than hotels. So I think it sounds like the government is moving towards the right place on that policy, although the right place on that policy is still under jeopardy from 1,000 people arriving here on Saturday. Real issues here. So for Shabana Mahmood, of course, she's been Home Secretary for 2 days now. Those arriving on her first day. She's now meeting with other counterparts, other Home Secretaries, if you like, with America, Canada, Australia and New Zealand. That's the Five Eyes intelligence network, working out how they can do more to try and frustrate these small boats crossings. I step back there and look at this reshuffle and think that they have really basically cleared out most of the senior players in the Home Office. Dame Diana Johnson has gone. Dame Angela Eagle, who never came on GB News, she has gone. Yvette Cooper, who came on sometimes, she's gone. They've brought in, I think, people who are more willing to speak to GB News audience, frankly. Mike Tapp, of course, well known as the Labour MP for Dover, always on the channel. He might become the Minister for GB News pretty soon. We're hoping to speak to Shabana Mahmood at some point and others too. So it looks to me like this new team, the new eyes at the Home Office, is going to be focusing more on trying to tackle that small boats crisis and crucially communicate that to GB News viewers and listeners. Elsewhere, I think that the workers' rights policy could be under some threat. Angela Rayner has gone. The person below her, Justin Madders, who was implementing it through the Commons, he has gone. And also Jonathan Reynolds is now the Chief Whip. He was the Business Secretary. So question marks about whether the idea of giving immediate access to paternity, maternity rights on arrival in a company, which has been fiercely fought by companies, whether that will last through the next few months, we'll wait and see. The TUC will be upset with that. And just finally, looking at the benefits issue, everyone agrees that the benefits bill must be cut. 6 million people being paid not to work by the government is not sustainable. Could be costing as much as £100 billion by the end of the decade. Pat McFadden is the old Whitehall warhorse, the veteran of Gordon Brown's top team when he was Prime Minister. He's now in charge of welfare and skills. He may be the person to tackle that.
Fascinating. Thanks for that. That's Chris Hope. Chris Hope, our political editor. It's a lot going on.
Common sense cabinet, though, he reckons. Maybe they'll come and talk to GB News. Well, we'll see about that.
Amazing that last week the Prime said he had absolute confidence in the way the Home Secretary was doing her job.
She has been promoted, though, to Foreign Secretary.
Do you think so?
Well, we'll see.
I mean, the Prime Ministers do most of the heavy lifting now in foreign affairs. Look how often the Prime Minister is abroad.
True. Oh,
yeah, we meant to... Chris, we need you back, actually, because we wanted to talk to you about the deputy leadership. Chris, it's my fault. The deputy Labour leadership, people telling me this idea that it's going to be Shabana Mahmood who's Starmer's choice for the job. I'd have thought Starmer's choice for the job is doomed immediately.
Yes, maybe her or David Lammy. Of course, he appointed a Deputy Prime Minister on Saturday, probably to sugar the pill, sweeten the pill of moving David Lammy from the glamorous Foreign Office to the frankly unglamorous Ministry for Justice. This is a real headache, potentially, for the Prime Minister. To briefly explain, at lunchtime today, the NEC, the ruling body of the Labour Party, they'll meet remotely because of the tube strike here in London, ironically. They meet remotely to set out the rules for the timescale. We expect, though, that the MPs will choose their nominations by 5 p.m. on Thursday, and then we expect local parties and unions to try and nominate individuals. It's quite a high bar. You need 80 MPs' support to stand to be deputy leader of a Labour Party, and then the support of 5% of the constituency Labour parties and 3 affiliated unions, and then it goes to the membership, the 320,000 members of the party. Yes, there's no question number 10 wants someone who is aligned with Keir Starmer. That's why you're seeing David Lammy, Shabana Mahmood, those 2 individuals are being lined up for that, possibly. But equally, some real troublemakers for Keir Starmer could stand and could get through. Dame Emily Thornberry, of course, not moved to be Attorney General, having shadowed that role when she was in opposition. Also, Louise Hay, of course, she was sacked for when it emerged she pled guilty to fraud by false misrepresentation in 2014 for false reporting the theft of a mobile phone the year before. And Lucy Powell, of course, removed brutally in that cabinet reshuffle on Friday. Very clear she didn't want to move. Other names, maybe Alison McGovern, others too. I think the problem that number 10 have got is they may well end up with a hostile individual to the administration in terms of obviously outwardly loyal, but maybe behind the scenes not so loyal as a deputy leader of a Labour Party, but not being the deputy prime minister. So a problem emerging potentially for Sir Keir Starmer.
Well, Chris Hope, thank you very much for that update. Sticking on this story, we're going to go to Penny Gowland, who's a Labour councillor on Nottinghamshire County Council. Penny, good morning. There's been a lot of focus on the Labour Party in London, what's going on in Westminster with MPs and, of course, this cabinet reshuffle. But what's the mood like in the Labour Party further away from London?
Well, I think there's a lot of disquiet because many people don't feel that their voices are being heard. And I think it's really interesting what I've just heard in the last few minutes on your programme. So people not talking to GB News is sort of a bit like the same problem we got in the party. The way you get best decisions in any walk of life is by listening to lots of voices. And if the party ends up with a deputy leader who's contradictory to the sort of general view of the leader, I think that's a good thing, actually, because it means we've got more voices coming in, bringing in different points of view. So I think that should be seen as a strength. Strength is in having lots of positions being brought forward. And you're saying, I'm from the Midlands. We need more voices from the Midlands and more voices from the north, not just everything being focused around central London, great as it is.
Well, I'd have thought that would have been a problem for you with the former Attorney General, Emily Thornberry. She's an Islington MP. The next-door constituency is Sir Keir Starmer's. The previous Labour leader was an Islington MP. The previous Labour leader was next door. Have you got somebody in mind up there, perhaps, who from the north who could do the job, or the Midlands?
I'm not going to name names. To be honest, I haven't got names in mind, but we just need a broader range of people. I mean, there are plenty of people from the north in the current cabinet, current leadership of the party. So, I'm not going to start naming names, but I think we need a wider range of views, and we need people who aren't from the inside, people who are from the outside of this. When I say the outside of the current leadership group, which is really very tight. We need a broader range of views, frankly, views from the left, views from the centre, not just views from the right of the party. We've got a lot of problems at the moment, and a lot of it's due to, inequality and people really feeling pain since 2008. And, we need to bring those voices forward across the country. The situation in the North and the Midlands is not great at the minute.
Well, Penny Gowland, Labour councillor from Nottinghamshire, thank you very much for your time this morning.
Thanks. Bye.
Labour Party just as split as the Tories were.
They certainly are, yeah, they are. But, I mean, how did this happen when they've only been in power for 13, 14 months?
It's been a rapid fall. Of course, it didn't start from a particular high point.
And it's also because Keir Starmer had no vision, and still doesn't. And I still don't know what the vision of this Labour government is.
Well, we've got a long time left to go. Another big problem, though, that this country faces, and in fact around the world, is that the fertility rate amongst women in the UK is at a record low.
Emerged last month that the birth rate, which is the average number of children per woman in England and Wales, is just 1.41. In Scotland, it's even lower, 1.25.
And an astonishing 30% of women are now expected never to become mothers. In the 1940s, that figure was just around 10%, so a rapid drop. And I'm delighted that we are now joined in the studio by Stephen Shaw, who has been held up by the problems in London that we've been covering earlier. But Stephen is a demographic expert, data scientist, and he's been studying these falling birth rates for years. Welcome to the programme, Stephen. Thank you so much for coming in.
Thank you for
your
patience.
Now, these figures are record lows. Lots of people assume that people are just having fewer children, so family sizes have shrunk. But you don't think that's the case?
No, it's not the case at all. And this is really a worldwide phenomenon. When we look at all low birth rate nations, mothers, once you have that first child, have been going on to have around the same number of children as mothers did as far back as the 1970s. So it's all about having that first child. It's quite remarkable how resilient parents are, women in particular, because since the 70s, look what's changed in the UK, around the world, in terms of opportunities for education, careers, political shifts, economic crises. Women generally keep going on having around the same number of children. What has changed is those not having children. What I call unplanned childlessness. We can see clearly in the data, there really has been, again, across all these nations, a series of real shocks to... I think the challenges to become a parent these days have just gotten harder and harder.
So you're saying people still want to have children. I think you, in your work, I've seen that only about 10% of women say they don't want children, which is fairly consistent. So why aren't people having that first child?
It's all about age. You know, that's my findings, my latest research. The longer you delay starting a family, I don't mean individually, I mean as a nation, that average age when people tend to form families, you can pretty accurately predict what the childlessness rate is going to be without even knowing the name of the country. So if you were to tell me a country with an average age of starting a family for a woman, man just a little bit older, let's say it's around 30, we would have a pretty good idea that the childlessness rate is going to be over 30%.
Gosh, so it's all about the timing.
It's all about timing.
Is there any relationship to do with the decline in income, what we used to call middle class, working class?
You really can exclude all of those things.
Right.
You know, researchers have spent a lot of time, perhaps understandably, looking at individual nations or regions. London right now, it's the price of housing. And the price of housing is a big, big problem to young people here, I know that. But where I live in Tokyo, the house prices are not a challenge at all. They're very affordable, and you have even lower birth rates. So when you look at countries with kind of the opposite scenario, For example, work-life balance in Tokyo, it's all blamed on men aren't doing enough in the home. But you look at Scandinavia now, where men are doing a lot more in the home, and birth rates are really getting as low as they are in Japan. So all of these other things wash out.
But with climate change and the erosion of natural resources, shouldn't we be cheering the fact there's fewer people to feed?
Well, that might well be the view of many people. As a researcher, I'm not interested in that. I'm interested in what the longer-term trends are so that people can sit back and think, well, what does this mean for our economy, for our society, for our community, or for individuals, for their personal lives? And really, we're not thinking far enough ahead. I mean, we already know that the UK right now, that birth rate of 1.4 means that the number of births will be halving in the UK every 50 years. Number of schools closing, 50% of schools every 50 years. That's going to have tremendous impact on communities across the UK.
And on our economy. What does it mean for things like the welfare state?
Yeah, I kind of find it bemusing. Here we have in the UK, I believe, a limit of 2 children in terms of the credit you get as a parent. And I've heard politicians say, well, we can't afford. We can't afford to give more money to those parents who have 3 or more. But actually, the affordability of paying off the national debt, of our pension systems, of future healthcare systems, is all linked to the number of births we have. So I really don't think we're thinking hard enough about the impact it will have particularly on young generations.
But there might be young people watching this who want to have children, but are saying, well, I'm in my late 20s, let's say, I can't afford a house, I'm barely making ends meet, I've spent all this money on my education, and I want to use it to have a career. I mean, what would you say to those people in very difficult circumstances?
Yes, my own children are in that category, pretty much. And so I understand, but the reality is if those people had a little bit more money in their pockets, what would they do? They'd probably go to take that second holiday or go on that ski trip or buy that new wardrobe of clothes. So it's all about reprioritization or resequencing, albeit that times are tough for many, many people.
And maybe the government has to help that, do you think?
The government, I think, can provide a framework. The government, I don't think, has a role in terms of telling people to have children at all.
Benefit cap.
Yeah,
they've got a cap on benefits here, 2 kids.
Yeah.
All right.
And Labour MPs want it lifted.
Yeah, in order so people can
have more children.
Yeah, I think it says something really unusual for a country to put a limit in terms of support for families on a given number of children. I mean, what message does that? I mean, I think it's not necessarily a policy that will increase the number of births. It sounds a lot fairer to me if you're going to support whatever number of children people want. But it just says something very unusual that a country, in its ethos, would think that it's OK to put a limit in place.
Yes. Whereas actually, at the moment, we need as many children as possible. Well, Stephen Shaw, thank you so much. And we will be doing a longer interview later for GBN Originals, so watch out for that.
Now, we're going to be speaking to former Labour MP to get her take on the party's problems right now, because if you haven't noticed, they've got quite a few.
And even more problems for the UK, because we've got tube strikes that have caused chaos in London this morning. You're watching Britain's Newsroom, Britain's favourite morning show on GB News.
GB News, we are proud to stand for you, for the Britain you love, for the communities you live in. That's what makes us the fearless champions of Britain. Its voices and its values. Because we, at GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Mornings don't have to be tiresome, especially if you have the right company.
Wake up to news as it happens, opinion and debate, and of course, a little bit of entertainment too.
Because when the kettle's on, we're on.
That's Breakfast on GB News, a show worth waking up for.
Every morning from 6 a.m.
Only on the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
We'll spread the news, you spread the word.
From the school run to the home run, watch a new show for all of Britain.
He can say whatever he wants.
A straight talking show where all voices are heard.
And, you know, when are we going to stop talking about smashing the gangs and actually do it?
With the stories that matter from every part of our country.
There's a bit of a crash landing there for your Chancellor.
Bold, fearless and standing up for you. That's me, Martin Daubney, 3 p.m. till 6 p.m. weekdays, here only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Well, it's nearly 11:30. We're on Britain's Newsroom on GB News. We've got the panel back in the studio. Thank goodness.
You have indeed.
Someone's turned up.
Let's just carry on with the conversation because we were talking off air about the wretched tube strike by the
Yes.
Our previous guest, his journey, which should have taken half an hour, took 2.5 hours.
It's just ridiculous out there. It really is. Yesterday at 3 o'clock, we had that stupid alert. I didn't because I disabled mine. It was apocalyptic, and now it's been transferred again onto today, a 2.5-hour cab ride, right, for a journey that should only have taken half an hour. I had to get a black cab into work today, and I'm thankful that I did it. And the reason I did that over other cab apps was because I knew the driver would know the best routes.
Yeah.
The driver would be able to use the bus lanes because lots of buses were on strike, limited service as well. It wasn't as if to say I could transfer. I needed to get to work because, do you know what? I don't have the facility to have a 32-hour week. I know what a 32-hour day feels like.
Just to remind people, Matthew, the RMT want their members to go from a 35-hour week to a 32-hour week. They're currently earning on average £73,000 a year. Plus, they have very generous travel concessions. Are you sympathetic to your mates in the union?
Listen, I'm a union man to my toes, but I can see the optics of... They're going to get very little sympathy to this week.
I don't think they get any.
It's not an optic.
I think 35-hour weeks isn't bad. 7 weeks holiday definitely isn't bad.
And overtime if they want it.
And 25% pay increase over the past how many number of years?
So I understand the RMT's argument that working extreme shift patterns and the way that they are can take...
do.
Try working in telly.
No, but on a serious note, it takes... No, it does, and it takes lives off your lifespan. But you've got it all right, in my opinion. You're doing all right, I think, compared to lots of people up and down the country. And I get the whole point of a strike is to cause mass disruption. The point is you want the TfL to give in.
They are essentially public sector workers. They have very secure jobs, good pensions.
Yep.
They're providing what is an essential
service. It's an essential service.
Journeys a day. How come they're allowed to strike? Surely it's time to end that.
Well, with stuff like that, I worry once the genie's out the bottle where it ends, we might stop those strikes and those strikes.
Didn't used to be allowed to strike.
No, and listen, the police aren't. The police aren't.
They can't go on strike.
And maybe for good reason, but I think in a world where I still think the boss has the upper hand over the worker...
But the boss is the taxpayer. Eventually, at the end of the day, isn't it?
Yeah, but we're all taxpayers, aren't we? But I think
if you work for a big
not everyone,
your boss is not a taxpayer.
No, maybe not, but I think the only strength at times where there is an imbalance is that the worker can withdraw their labour and go, right, we're going out.
The damage to the economy has been put already at £250 million.
£250 million?
The Coldplay concert tonight at Wembley Stadium, 82,000 people. How many months had people been...
Well, look,
and
international people as well flying in, especially for this concert.
I know, amazing, really. And there's another concert cancelled at Tottenham Hotspur.
Post Malone, he's off,
What's he called?
Post Malone.
Yeah, whoever he is, but I mean...
But you're not going, Andrew.
He's great.
I don't know, I'm not... Popular culture, not my strong, but it's hugely, hugely damaging for the reputation of London PLC.
It really it totally is. And it's under that optic that I say no to them striking, get back to work, get us to work.
Yeah. And where is the Mayor of London, Sadiq Khan? Has he said anything?
Oh, Sadiq
I believe
Khan,
he tweeted earlier
Andrew.
to say he doesn't agree and we need to agree and get round the table.
He's not Sadiq Khan, he's Sadiq Kant. Oh,
Very
well placed, very well
there. Choose
there.
your words very carefully.
Well, unlike the rest of London, we are moving swiftly on. Here's your 60-second news update with Tatiana Sanchez.
Good morning. The top stories. Labour's ruling body meets today to draw up plans for a deputy leadership election as MPs consider whether to enter the race to replace Angela Rayner. The newly appointed Home Secretary Shabana Mahmood says migrants will be returned to France imminently. That's as she prepares to host a security alliance alongside ministers from countries like America and Canada to discuss the rise of people smuggling gangs. Commuters across the capital facing severe disruption as tube strikes have shut down nearly all London Underground services. Tube staff have begun a 5-day strike over paying conditions. An Australian mother who murdered her estranged husband's parents and aunt by feeding them a beef Wellington laced with poisonous mushrooms has been jailed for life with a minimum of 33 years. And Rick Davies, the co-founder and vocalist of Supertramp, has died at the age of 81. Those are the latest headlines for now. More in half an hour.
For all the latest from GB News whilst you're on the go, get the GB News app. Scan the QR code now to download or visit gbnews.com/app.
Well, coming up at noon, we've got Good Afternoon Britain, and Tom Harwood has joined us in the studio now. What's coming up?
Gosh, well, we're going to be kicking off the show with a celebration of Ascension of our King. Yes, a 41-gun salute from Hyde Park, where we'll be seeing some of those guns go off. Of course, it's the anniversary at which the King took his throne. A sad anniversary as well, of course, of Her Majesty the King, the Queen's death. But much more besides that. Today we're expecting to learn the timetable and the rules of the Labour leadership, deputy leadership election. This is a bit of a worrying time for the government. We've already seen the launch of a new group within Labour. Nigel Farage over the weekend was warning about splits within the government. And now a new group being set up by Clive Lewis and Clive Efford called Labour Mainstream. It's seen as a bit of a left-wing pressure group within the Labour Party. And this is the sort of thing that a deputy leadership election can unleash. New factions. So big questions there. We're also going to be looking at Haroon Aswat, the terrorist behind the 7/7 bombings. He had a role in 9/11 too. But released with good wishes from the judge.
That judge, Nigel Farage, is absolutely right. That judge should be kicked out. Appalling. Insensitive,
I'm just
gross.
surprised he's been released at all, given that he's been expressing
the mastermind
terrorist
and because
sympathies.
He's got psychiatric
well, it's been 20 years. A lot of these people got 20-year sentences. We're going to see a lot of those terrorists being released around this year. It's going to be a big moment.
He's got psychiatric issues, Tom. We cannot put
even tag him.
Tag him.
Yeah.
No, he was told to remember to take his medication. That was one of the other things the judge said.
I think we know.
I'm sure he will.
Let's think about what happened in Nottinghamshire recently.
Very sad. Well, that's coming up at midday. But up next, we've got a former Labour MP, Rosie Duffield, who will give her verdict on Sir Keir Starmer after a terrible few days in government.
You won't want to miss that. Britain's Newsroom on GB News.
Hello there, good morning. Welcome to your GB News weather update from the Met Office. It's set to be a day of sunshine and showers, but many eastern areas will see a mostly dry day, plenty of sunny spells, though feeling a little cooler than it did yesterday. And the reason for the showers, well, it's all thanks to low pressure just to the south of Iceland, dragging in some frontal systems at times. So it's mainly western areas that will see the bulk of the showers today. Some could turn heavy. We may see some hail and thunder, but most showers should be light to moderate, though they could be fairly blustery around western coasts of Scotland, and many eastern areas should avoid the bulk of the showers. So a mostly dry day ahead for much of England and Wales, and seeing the return of the sunshine after quite an unsettled day yesterday. Similar temperatures, highs reaching around 22 degrees Celsius. Then to finish off the day, we are still going to see some of these showers continue. Once again, fairly blustery around western coasts of Scotland, but across the far northeast it should be a mostly dry and clear end to the day. Similar across Northern Ireland, northwestern parts of England, still a chance we could see some showers, and also across Wales and parts of southwest England. But across central areas, parts of the east-southeast, once again a dry and clear end to the day. And any showers remaining across the west will soon ease away through the course of the night, and it's going to leave plenty of clear spells across the country, so it is going to be feeling fairly cool, quite fresh by the time we reach the early hours of the morning. We may even see some patchy mist and fog in places. But a slightly different story across southern parts of Wales, southwest England, more cloud and a bit of a breeze picking up here. But it is set to be a cool, fresh start, lows reaching around 7 to 8 degrees Celsius. A fairly similar day on Tuesday. Once again, we could see some showers, particularly across the west, but for the bulk of the country, a dry and settled day ahead. Across parts of Wales, southwest England, once again, we'll see more clouds, so hazy sorts of spells of sunshine, and then once again, we could see some heavy downpours by the afternoon. But once again, highs reaching around 22 degrees Celsius.
Westminster's full of talk, but out here, it's the real world. Am I allowed to talk now? No, that's it. This is where it matters, real people and real lives. That's what politics is all about.
The fact is Trump made a good start, no.
Straight answers, no spin, and just a couple of pints. How many fingers have I got up? About 10. So join me for Lee Anderson's Real World every Friday at 7 p.m, only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
You want to know what's really going on in the corridors of power? Labour don't know what to do with you half the time, and that makes you quite lethal in the chamber. Get behind the headlines with Chopper's political podcast. Join me, Christopher Hope, as I sit down with the great and the good of British politics. We'll see where this ruling takes us. These are the stories shaping our nation. Chopper's political podcast, available now on all platforms. Listen in and stay ahead.
Welcome back, and it's time for the Great British Giveaway. It's your chance to win our biggest prize to date, worth an incredible £104,000.
You can drive away with a lovely 4-berth motorhome and bank a whopping £30,000 in cash. Here's all the details you need to be our biggest winner to date. Good luck.
You're not going to want to miss our greatest Great British giveaway so far. You could bank an incredible £30,000 in tax-free cash to spend however you like. And if that wasn't enough, you'll also get to drive away in this brand new motorhome. With thanks to Marquis Leisure, this brand new 2025 Benimar Primero could be yours. It comes with all the mod cons you'd expect from a vehicle worth over £74,000 and comfortably sleeps 4 people. This prize package is worth over £104,000. And remember, if you can dream it, you can drive it away. For another chance to win, text WIN to 63225. One entry costs £2.50 plus one standard network rate message. Or text BONUS to 63225. 5 entries cost £5 plus one standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start at £2.50. Call 0903 686 3232. Calls cost £2.50 plus your network access charge. Or post your name and number to GB16 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrants must be 18 or over. Lines close at 4 p.m. on the 31st of October. The winner will be contacted live on GB News, week commencing 10th November. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand. Good luck.
Well, good luck with that.
Yeah, absolutely right. Now, we're going to get some more on problems in golf with Sir Keir Starmer. The former Labour MP Rosie Duffield said last week's cabinet reshuffle was like shuffling deck chairs on the Titanic.
Yes, well, Rosie Duffield was a Labour MP until she resigned from the parliamentary party just under a year ago. She's going to join us very shortly. We're just trying to bring her up. But, of course, she's incredibly brave during the last parliament, standing up for women's rights. Not very well received by her party.
And I can remember Starmer launched his Labour election campaign in Kent, and the only constituency he didn't visit was her constituency, because she's Canterbury, isn't she?
That's right. Well, she is with us now. Rosie Duffield, good morning. Welcome to Britain's Newsroom. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thanks for having me.
Now, Rosie, you resigned from the Labour Party a year ago over the row over winter fuel allowance and some of the freebies that Starmer and his cabinet were given. What do you make of this first year of the Labour government?
I think what I make of this first year is what the public make of it. It's just been an absolute shambles, and it's really sad because we all had great hopes for a change and a new government, and some of us have been campaigning for a Labour government for about 15 years, and he's managed to let down pretty much every group of people that Labour had promised to look out for. So we'd promised better deals for farmers and fishers, the older people, the disabled, all of the people that you would imagine were going to be looked after by the Labour Party have all been let down. Small and medium businesses are on their knees. So, I mean, I'm not sure who they're actually for, and I think the public are reflecting that in the polls that we keep seeing.
That's an interesting point you make there, Rosie. You're not sure who they're for, because isn't that probably one of the most telling criticisms of this Labour government? What is it about? What is its mission? What is its narrative? What does it stand for? I don't know. You were a member of the party until very recently. You're clearly struggling too.
Yeah, I'm really not sure that anyone feels that they're being taken along for whatever this journey is, and it feels as though Labour are very introspective, they're very Westminster driven, they're just speaking to each other, and when you go out into your constituency, and it's not just me that feels this way, there's such a disconnect between ordinary people and their lived lives and the government, and I don't know that they can ever really get over that at this stage, because it's gone on for a whole year now. So it's a bit of a disaster.
When you just took that brave decision, in my view, to stand out, to operate as an independent, how much abuse did you get?
Funnily enough, I was expecting a lot more. The only really nasty comments, and what you might call abuse, were all from Labour members who felt betrayed and let down. And even then, it was only a few people, actually. Most of my constituency understand that my values haven't changed. I'm not going to stop representing them in the way that I always have. But now I feel freer to push for those things still, even though the Labour government have abandoned them. So the things that I know are dear to my constituents and constituency, I'll still push for. So that, in fact, I'm freer to do that now.
Do you think the cabinet reshuffle that's taken place last week marks a change in direction, potentially a positive change? Could we see a new vision for the Labour Party starting from now?
I mean, really, if you just move the same 5 or 6 people around, what's new? They haven't brought anybody in to replace Angela Rayner, who's from, in any way, a wing of the left wing of the party. So nobody soft left or left, has kind of come into any of those jobs. And therefore, they've kind of cut themselves off yet again from a huge amount of the membership and the MPs. So it feels like those divides are even worse. They've brought in lots of new and untested people, some people who've never had a real job in the real world. And people can see that. Other MPs who've even served in the government, in the last Labour government, are left on the back benches, so their experience isn't wanted. It doesn't send a great message to senior Labour MPs who are already fed up, anyone on the left, or the membership. So I'm not sure how that's going to change anything at all.
We're a long way away from a general election, Rosie, but do you feel if the way this lot carry on, it's a one-term government?
Yes, I'm afraid I do. In the first couple of weeks, a very senior colleague of mine, a good friend, said to me, he was apoplectic, and he said, this is the last Labour government of a generation. And I thought, he's a bit dramatic, and this has got... But actually, most of us, I can say it, but most of my colleagues are feeling that downhearted. We feel really angry about what Keir has done. He's let down our voter base, people that we were trying to attract as our voter base, and everyone we promised all kinds of things to, and I'm not sure that it's recoverable. I mean, 4 years is a very long time, so let's see, and I hope I'm wrong, but at the moment, it's looking and feeling that way.
Well, Rosie Duffield, thank you so much for your time this morning. It's always good to hear from you. An incredibly brave former Labour MP. Thank you very much, Rosie.
Incredible. And, of course, she stuck up to him over his failure to be able to define a woman.
Absolutely.
And that did get her an awful lot of
any
abuse.
public support from her own colleagues.
Particularly her women colleagues.
Indeed. Well,
now, at noon, we'll be crossing live to Hyde Park, where there will be a 41-gun salute to mark the 3rd anniversary of Charles's accession as King Charles III.
But first, here's the European holiday forecast.
Ready to soak up that holiday sunshine?
Won't we need some cover?
No worries. All sorted.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations Forecast.
Hello there. An unsettled couple of days to come across parts of Spain and Italy with some heavy showers around. But for the Canaries, actually, next couple of days, largely fine, apart from the odd shower around. Plenty of sunshine, actually, for parts of Portugal and western Spain. But for eastern Spain, the Balearics, parts of Italy, southern France, some heavy and thundery downpours around. But for much of Greece and Turkey, fine a couple of days to come, with temperatures here reaching the high 20s.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations Forecast.
Welcome back to Britain's Newsroom with Andrew and Beth.
Hello everyone, Patrick Christie is here.
I'm Michelle Jewell, Britain's News Channel.
Access the stories that matter to you. Take the GB News family with you on any device. And as long as you have an internet connection, tune in to GB News anywhere on the planet or beyond. GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Britain was once the envy of the world. But look around. A nation that no longer knows what it is or where it's going. A country that's broken. How do we fix Britain? How do we bring it back? Friday night with Matt Goodwin at 8 p.m, only on GB News.
It's Patrick Christie's Tonight, and here we do things differently.
It's explaining the absolute madness of this, doesn't it?
It's explosive.
I mean, this is very good.
It's lively.
850. Your government sat there, Sean, and it did nothing.
It's controversial.
And the Middle East has been in turmoil since before I was born.
It's everything you need to kickstart your evening.
Everyone's had their Weetabix tonight. I love to see it.
That's Patrick Christie's Tonight, weeknights from 9 p.m. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
At GB News, we love to hear from you, our loyal community. So drop us a line at gbnews.com/yoursay. There you can talk to each other and also to the presenters live on air. gbnews.com/yoursay, because GB News is your channel, Britain's news channel.
Hi, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and my show is your opportunity to cut through all the noise and dive in headfirst to some robust debates. Ideas clash.
Situation,
no,
isn't it?
No,
Because the failure is...
You're deliberately avoiding my point. Nothing's held back.
And if you think this is the end of it, wait for more.
And we do not shy away from the difficult stuff. Sometimes I want to shake people and say, if only you understood. So join me on Jubes & Co. weeknights at 6 p.m, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Join me, Nana Akweer, for an informative, interactive news programme with a difference. It's fun.
Oh, no, you didn't say that, Dave.
I'm so surprised.
I think there's an element of truth to that.
Join me from 3 p.m. every weekend, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Mornings don't have to be tiresome, especially if you have the right company.
Wake up to news as it happens, opinion and debate, and of course, a little bit of entertainment too.
Because when the kettle's on, we're on.
That's Breakfast on GB News, a show worth waking up for.
Every morning from 6 a.m.
Only on the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
We'll spread the news, you spread the word.
Well, welcome back to Britain's Newsroom. It's 9 minutes to 12. You're watching GB News.
Have they been getting in touch?
Well,
have they
we
been
have
saying
got,
how much they adore you?
Oh, yes, always. It's great that we've got record viewing figures, but, you know, some people are not happy.
Yeah, the viewing figures, I mean, Friday in particular was a great day for GB News.
It was.
Best day ever. It was a huge day, of course. The Deputy Prime Minister, who you supported, resigned.
Andrew, I did not support her. I said she shouldn't be hounded out of office. That's a different thing.
She wasn't hounded out of office. She went because she fibbed. She tried to tell us she'd taken the right advice, and she hadn't. She'd gone to a high street flipping conveyancing firm, and they said, get some decent tax advice, love. Secretary of State for Housing, she could have asked 1 million people, have I paid the right tax?
Well, we did have a pollster on, didn't we? John Curtis, who did make the very good point that actually wouldn't it be better to sack ministers if they don't deliver on their brief? But anyway, that's for another day. We can see some fantastic pictures here now, gearing up for the 41 gun salute.
41 gun salute is the accession of King Charles III. God save the King. Here's the weather.
Expect warm spells with the odd rude interruption. Boxed Boilers sponsors the weather on GB News.
Hello there, good morning. Welcome to your GB News weather update from the Met Office. It's set to be a day of sunshine and showers, but many eastern areas will see a mostly dry day, plenty of sunny spells, though feeling a little cooler than it did yesterday. And the reason for the showers, well, it's all thanks to low pressure just to the south of Iceland, dragging in some frontal systems at times. So it's mainly western areas that will see the bulk of the showers today. Some could turn heavy. We may see some hail and thunder, but most showers should be light to moderate, though they could be fairly blustery around western coasts of Scotland, and many eastern areas should avoid the bulk of the showers. So mostly dry day ahead for much of England and Wales, and seeing the return of the sunshine after quite an unsettled day yesterday. Similar temperatures, highs reaching around 22 degrees Celsius. Then to finish off the day, we are still going to see some of these showers continue. Once again, fairly blustery around western coasts of Scotland, but across the far northeast, it should be a mostly dry and clear end to the day. Similar across Northern Ireland, northwestern parts of England, still a chance we could see some showers, and also across Wales and parts of southwest England. But across central areas, parts of the east-southeast, once again, a dry and clear end to the day. And any showers remaining across the west will soon ease away through the course of the night, and it's going to leave plenty of clear spells across the country, so it is going to be feeling fairly cool, quite fresh by the time we reach the early hours of the morning. We may even see some patchy mist and fog in places. But a slightly different story across southern parts of Wales, southwest England, more cloud and a bit of a breeze picking up here. But it is set to be a cool, fresh start, lows reaching around 7 to 8 degrees Celsius. A fairly similar day on Tuesday. Once again, we could see some showers, particularly across the west, but for the bulk of the country, a dry and settled day ahead. Across parts of Wales, southwest England, once again, we'll see more clouds, so hazy sorts of spells of sunshine, and then once again, we could see some heavy downpours by the afternoon. But once again, highs reaching around 22 degrees Celsius.
Expect warm spells with the odd rude interruption. Boxed Boilers sponsors the weather on GB News.
This is your chance to win a motorhome and cash in our biggest giveaway to date. Courtesy of Marquis Leisure, you could be the proud owner of this 2025 Benamar Primero. It comfortably accommodates 4 people and can be driven on your standard driving licence. Plus, you'll also bank an incredible £30,000 in tax-free cash to spend on anything you like. Make sure you don't miss out. For another chance to win, text WIN to 63225. One entry costs £2.50 plus one standard network rate message, or text BONUS to 63225. 5 entries cost £5 plus one standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start at £2.50. Call 0903 686 3232. Calls cost £2.50 plus your network access charge. Or post your name and number to GB16 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 4 p.m. on the 31st of October. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand. Good luck.
From the school run to the home run, watch a new show for all of Britain.
So he can say whatever he wants.
A straight talking show where all voices are heard.
And, you know, when are we going to stop talking about smashing the gangs and actually do it?
With the stories that matter from every part of our country.
There's a bit of a crash landing there for your Chancellor.
Bold, fearless and standing up for you. That's me, Martin Daubney, 3 p.m. till 6 p.m, weekdays, here only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Westminster's full of talk, but out here, it's the real world.
Am I allowed to talk then?
No, that's it. This is where it matters, real people and real lives. That's what politics is all about.
The fact is Trump made a good start, no.
Straight answers, no spin, and just a couple of pints.
How many fingers have I got up? About 10.
So join me for Lee Anderson's Real World every Friday at 7 p.m, only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Britain was once the envy of the world. But look around. A nation that no longer knows what it is or where it's going. A country that's broken. How do we fix Britain? How do we bring it back? Friday night with Matt Goodwin at 8 p.m, only on GB News.
At GB News, we love to hear from you, our loyal community. So drop us a line at gbnews.com/yoursay. There, you can talk to each other and also to the presenters live on air. gbnews.com/yoursay, because GB News is your channel, Britain's news channel.
Join me, Nana Akweer, for an informative, interactive news programme with a difference. It's fun.
no, he didn't say that, Dave.
I'm so surprised.
I think there's an element of truth to that.
Join me from 3 p.m. every weekend, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Good afternoon, Britain. It's just coming up to 12 o'clock on Monday, the 8th of September. I'm Tom Harwood.
And I'm Nana Akua. Good morning.
Now, if Labour didn't have enough problems, more than 1,000 small boat migrants arrived on Shabana Mahmood, the new first Home Secretary's, her first full day. All of this as the party begins to search for its deputy leader.
As day 2 of the Trade Union Conference gets underway, the General Secretary of the TUC, Paul Nowak, tells GB News the government have to start delivering on their manifesto promises.
Today in my Congress speech, I'll be asking the government to show whose side they're on, to be on the side of working class communities up and down the country and to deliver the change that people voted for.
Well, there's chaos in the capital. Yes, London commuters are facing severe disruptions as a tube strike shuts down services, the first of many days.
Fat-busting pills, cheats that cost less than jabs could hit the UK next year to help overweight Brits who shun the injections lose weight.
A very good afternoon. We're taking you live to Hyde Park, where shortly there will be a 41-gun salute to mark the 3rd anniversary of the accession of King Charles to the throne.
So what you can see on the screen now of the 41-gun salute at Hyde Park, of course, we're looking at those guns right now, and any moment we'll hear them, and it's very traditional, isn't it? There's a lot of history behind it.
There's a huge amount of history behind it. This is all born of when a ship used to go into a harbour, to a fort, to a port, and with these old sort of in the days of sail, the ship would have many, many cannon on board. To prove that it wasn't attacking one of these forts, it would fire blanks. It would fire its cannon to prove that there weren't any cannonballs in there, that it was a friendly ship, that it was coming into harbour for good reason. And this became a ceremony. It's just begun. Let's listen in to some of these shots for King Charles. Well, here to discuss not only the salute that is taking place for His Majesty, but His Majesty's anniversary on the throne is Richard Fitzwilliams, the royal commentator. Richard, thanks for joining us. This, of course, an annual celebration in Hyde Park.
Yes, absolutely. The King's Troop, Royal Horse Artillery, they date back from 1947, where they were founded by the King Charles's grandfather, King George VI. And there's no question that this is obviously one of those moments that you think back and look at the reign, which I have to say has been a truly remarkable one, even at this short period, because geopolitically, I mean, the monarchy has been involved in soft power and projected it in the most extraordinary way, not only, for example, as King of Canada when King Charles opened the Canadian Parliament, but of course we're looking at next week's state visit, a second unprecedented for American president of President Trump.
And of course, these are the occasions when we'll see these guns go off. A visiting head of state like President Trump. We saw the guns go off for Emmanuel Macron, the French president, when he visited too. But in terms of the fixed moments of the year, it's only 4: Accession Day, the King's birthday, the King's official birthday, and Coronation Day. A really quite special and historic way to mark these occasions.
Very historic and interesting too that we are the last country in Europe to have a coronation, and I think that we saw this absolutely extraordinary ceremony, of course deeply religious, and King Charles is someone who is not only thoughtful but someone who has a great deal of faith. Attended by over 200 countries. That gives you an idea of the fascination in our monarchy and also the interest in it.
Now, I just want to ask you, because there are 41 of them, why is that?
41, it's what has tended to be the tradition. And this occurs, these salutes occur, for example, in Hyde Park with the King's Troop. Then they also occur at the Tower of London with the Honorary Artillery Company, which is remarkable indeed, dating back from the period of Henry VII.
No, it is extraordinary to see the history here, the way that this evolved through the Napoleonic Wars and became such a staple of a salute. But of course, this is all in the context of wider royal news. Prince Harry is going to be back in the United Kingdom later on this year, perhaps later on in the next few weeks. What do we know about when Prince Harry will actually return to the United Kingdom?
Well, Prince Harry is actually returning for 4 days today. Is the reason that it is today, which of course is the anniversary which we've been discussing, is because he is attending the Well Child Awards. This is one of his charities, and he's likely reportedly to stay for some 4 days. There's a great deal of speculation as to whether or not he and King Charles will meet during this period. My own feeling is that it probably will not happen, but there has been a tremendous amount of publicity already about this, a lot of discussion. In July, it was discovered several royal aides were together at the Royal Overseas League, and this got a lot of publicity too. There's no doubt that there have been problems in the first period of King Charles's reign, and exacerbated by, in my opinion anyway, the way the Sussexes have behaved, and also linked, of course, to Prince Andrew, who's in disgrace.
Now, of course, he's not the only royal on the move. Princess Kate, she is currently on a sort of, she's on an event today. What are people saying about her blonde hair as well? I preferred her dark. I preferred the dark hair. I really did.
It's actually rather significant, Nana, because there are those who feel that this is a superficial detail, but in point of fact, every detail about the world's most glamorous royal couple, and I'm obviously referring to the Prince and Princess of Wales, is of interest. And yes, what we've seen is her hair going a great deal lighter and then appearing, I thought, to go a great deal or a good deal darker. So we'll just have to see what she decides. I mean, often if you have a particular hair colour, and this is of interest, by the way, as was what she wears, because there's a tremendous, it's a Kate effect. Billions are linked to this in the British fashion industry. It's a very important point. So what we've seen is much lighter colour, and I thought probably the reason that she changed the colour of her hair was, you know, it has been, she's recovered from cancer, and this, she's in remission, and this is obviously tremendously significant, and it must have been such a traumatic time for her. And so often, you know, you get a new look, and she seems to be experimenting.
I thought it might be a wig, because I wear them all the time. I mean, I went blonde, I had a great time. It's true, they have more fun. But talk about the engagement that she's currently going to be doing.
The engagement, this is linked, I think, to early childhood, is it not, today?
I think that is indeed the one, yes.
It's her particular passion. This is very, very significant because in the early years, I mean, this is what she says is going to be her life's work, that she believes so much in our lives is linked to what happens in the first years of our early childhood, and she's been behind a great deal of research that is going on this particular topic. So this, just as Prince William, for example, in homelessness, mental health, and the Earthshot Prize, so this is something that she's particularly keen on. We also, it was rather good to see both of them cheering on at respective football matches.
Now, Richard, do hold with us. We are just hearing that there may be some news coming in, some more royal news, so we're going to just hold our horses on this point. And brilliantly, as a visual metaphor, horses are no longer being held as they charge across Hyde Park. There we can see the King's Royal Troop Artillery. Is that a gallop or a canter going across there? Just talk to us about some of the images we're seeing on screen now.
Yes, I would say that I'm not an expert when it comes to, I'd say they were having a canter now, and it looked like a bit of a gallop to me, but your metaphor was extremely apt. And what you're seeing, of course, they do with such precision. One of the interesting aspects of this is that in Britain, I think our ceremonial is the best in the world. I think it's what attracts large numbers of people, not just tourists. And what we're seeing now is the drill, part of the drill.
Now, Richard, some breaking news just into us. We are seeing reports that Prince Harry will be obtaining police protection. Of course, Prince Harry visiting the United Kingdom today and for the days to come, all on the anniversary of his father's accession to the throne. Reports in the press now that he will be receiving police protection. This after protracted legal battles where he was arguing for this police protection and